A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Matt Williams got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid.
He's gone, he's hit him, he's straight off at the chase.
And a half-second lead. Oh, with the sizzling car in the background.
He has it. Oh, he's round on the last lap.
There's a massive accident.
Next to the inside, what a move, what a move.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to round number 7 of Automobilista Australia's Supercars Championship for 2020. Well, round number 7 getting close to the halfway point in the season, and it's a return to the long race format after 5 consecutive rounds where we've had a pair of races every night. It's a single race of 200 kilometres tonight, going back to the longer format, which we haven't seen since the opening round at Adelaide, which was a 250k affair. Slightly shorter distance tonight, but a much longer distance compared to what this corresponding event was last year. And off the back of a pretty poor showing by his standards, Kurt Stenberg is looking to rebound after, well, what can only be described as a little bit of a disaster, with his points deficit literally being halved at the conclusion of last round out at Calder Park. Can he respond, or is somebody else going to step up and take the chocolates in tonight's race? Thanks for tuning in to Outworld Broadcasting's coverage of the AMS Oz Supercars in 2020. My name is Steve DeVries, and it's a pleasure to welcome, as always, to the commentary box, the man we always call the encyclopedia of all things supercars here at AMS Oz in Hans Brunswick.
Good evening, Steve. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be returning back to North Queensland, Townsville, the Reed Park Street Circuit. For another fantastic event, and also a return to the longer feature race format. This year, not a 170 kilometre race as last year. This year we've got the 200 kilometre race, so an extra 30 k's to do. And how will that affect the drivers? I'm eager to see, and also eager to see if Stenberg can bring some redemption compared to what happened last time out at Calder.
Yeah, we'll certainly have a bit of a look in just a few moments' time as to how that all went down at Calder Park, because it was a little bit of an unusual sort of an event that we hadn't sort of seen before. So let's actually dive into that right now in our previous round's recap. So here it is, the Calder Park Twin Sprint a couple of weeks ago. 2 races, and the initial getaway very, very good for Will Devonish to start proceedings. Then behind him, it was pretty much as they started. Everybody was pretty clean through the opening couple of corners, save for a little bit of door handle banging. And then on the back side of it all, it was just D2 getting himself a little bit out of control at the back end of the field. But it didn't take long for Will's pole position and good start to come under threat.
Yeah, Stenberg made a move on the first corner of lap 2 into the hairpin, and Luke Rosella had to go there as well. He actually mounted the right rear wheel of Devonish, and these 4 cars at the head, they managed to have a little bit of a battle there. Again, Stenberg and Devonish going side by side, only leaving barely enough room. Stenberg onto the grass slightly, and he managed to get a nose up there, but he didn't quite get the run, or did he? He actually managed to get a better run out of there, and they did end up side by side for quite a while. Now here, Will Devonish managed to mount the right rear wheel of Stenberg, and that actually led Luke Rosella to get up there, and we just saw Luke Rosella go off there. A couple of mistakes from him this weekend, mostly lag-related mistakes, but only a few off-tracks like that.
Yeah, here's one of the things that we really didn't want to see. Shades of the late 90s, 3 cars going 3 wide into turn 1, but they somehow managed to figure themselves out. This was probably the cleanest race of the lot. There was very, very little major incidents in race number 1, aside from a little bit of, as we said, door handle banging and people getting caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, such as that example there with Lion Mitch getting in the wrong spot. Turn 1 was the favoured zone for everybody running out of brakes, or as some of us like to call it, running out of talent. Brenton Foley there, one example. He wasn't immune though. People such as Will Devonish was the same situation, and they wouldn't be the first 2 guys to go off the road there. They certainly wouldn't be the last all night long. The only real major incident that came up was this one here. Brendan Ross is getting his braking all wrong into turn 1, getting into the back of Turmo, pretty much stifled any real progress they had to make in that race. But then the pit stop sequences started to shake out.
Yeah, here's Foley trying to come out ahead of Luke Rosella, and Luke Rosella manages to gazump the position from him, as Darren Smith would like to say. And Luke Rosella, who's looking very racy for a large part of that race, and representing the Volvo colours quite well. Here was Stenberg. He actually got out ahead of Devonish, but calamity was to come later on in the race.
Yeah, Devonish, with his tyres having up to temperature and up to speed, having pit a lap or two earlier, was able to get the move done on the very next lap at turn number 1. Managed to hold position on the inside, and he'd hold sway for the better part of a half a lap until Stenberg would actually fight back and retake that position as they went through the fast chicane, coming up just on the other side of the hill. Stenberg followed pretty closely in the wheel tracks, then decided the time was right to strike back, and he would then try and kick away from Will. Again, plenty of side-by-side action, little bit of door handle banging, nothing too serious, no knocking each other off the road. Everybody stayed pretty much on the road the whole entire race. Although Will very nearly threw this one away. There it is again, another issue at turn 1. Just overdriving the car just a little bit. He thought he was in for second place, and then this happened.
Yeah, and this was the calamity we foreshadowed earlier. Kurt Stenberg gassed it up, was trying to turn a little bit more to the right, and full throttle at the same time. It didn't end well. He was trying to overcome the lap car of the CRE Motorsport. That was Cam Rutledge, I believe it was. And he ended up losing third place to Foley as well. So a torrid run for Stenberg after what looked like a certain victory. And a victory in the most unexpected of circumstances for Devonish. And Rosella onto the podium in second place, followed by Foley, then Stenberg in fourth.
Yeah, spot on. Very, very close finish in the end, half a second Devonish to Rosella, and Devonish certainly wouldn't have expected to take that win, having gone off the road a couple of laps from home. Just fate intervened in that one. Good result for Colin Warwick too, managing to get home ahead of Steve Burko. 3 Volvos making it inside the top 10, so all 3 Volvos in the field getting home, which was great to see, and the top 11 managing to stay on the lead lap. Then we had a little bit of a break, and then we got going again, and a brilliant reaction from Luke Rosella off this front row. Foley got absolutely mugged, got his start all wrong, and then started to get buried in the bottom half of the top 5 as everybody started to make their moves for turn 1. Rosella did pretty well to try and hold this line here, but he eventually, lag issues would return, and he eventually would lose those positions. If you thought race 1 was pretty calm, race 2 was anything but. There was plenty of running off the road and people getting into each other. Phil Boak and Scott Stancliffe in that example there. And Stancliffe then would lose a couple more positions, one to Lime Mitch in the opening couple of corners. And in terms of door handle banging, these two got it on yet again.
Yeah, Colin Warwick and Will Devonish got together at the final chicane there, and Luke Rosella bowled it wide. That was the second of his mistakes that he made while driving. The others were related to lag, and he was having a big battle with one of the other Volvos with, I believe that's Pete Savage.
That's Burko.
No, sorry, I was saying Pete Savage was maintaining a watching brief while the Volvos of Burko and Rosella are battling, and Savage managed to get up there. Wasn't an ideal run for him in this race. Again, Warwick and Devonish got together, with Devonish going off track and the outfield of turn 1 once again.
And this was the big one too. When all of that settled for a little bit, Warwick made his own mistake, got off the road at the back half of the circuit, and then this really poor rejoin came on at such an awkward position. Very, very lucky not to get punted off the road, which is a talking point that's going into the driver's briefing tonight. But yeah, plenty of action. Liam Mitch getting it all wrong at the same part of the circuit, but then just electing, saying, you know what, I'll come in and take service at that point in time. So that nullified that effect. Again, more mistakes. A little bit of lock on at the very fast chicane. Lewis Wedding went for a wild ride across the grass, or through the boonies as he would like to call it. And then this man, we were wondering why we had a yellow flag, and it actually turned out that he made another mistake. He was lucky not to drop too many positions in that. He ended up down from first to third. Lap traffic became an issue, and this was really, really awkward for Brenton Foley, and he tagged his teammate at the same time.
Yeah, that was a very awkward moment, and again we see Colin Warwick, more problems, and this would actually spell the end of his race. He decided to quit from there. Brendan Ross as well, struggling coming out of the chicane, ended up taking a tour through the grass and almost missed the flip-flop completely. Probably the better thing to do instead of rejoining. Here was Foley making a move on Stenberg, And Stenberg getting all locked up, skating in on the rears. And he was vulnerable to Rosella as well, who managed to get up the position. And Rosella, what a fantastic showing in his second round of AMS Oz competition.
Absolutely. He did really, really well there. And this was the real talking point that had our jaws on the floor. Stenberg made a mistake at the back part of the circuit, and then all of a sudden he dove for the pit lane, and we couldn't believe it. He'd made a massive fuel miscalculation and couldn't get home, and ultimately he'd end up a lap down, with the chocolates going to Will Devonish yet again. And then this battle went right to the line for the last 2 steps on the rostrum as well, which was fantastic to see. So the top 3 from race 1 were the same top 3 in race 2, just in a little bit of a different order. The Falcons of Wedding and Savage getting home for 5th and 4th respectively. Again, all Volvos in the top 10, which is great to see. And then look at that, right down there in 11th spot, Kurt Stenberg. That is not something we are used to seeing, is it, Hans? 1 lap down at the flag.
And the first car a lap down as well to boot. So it just shows how competitive it was. The front guys really getting through the rear guys at the end of the field, and how costly it was to make that fuel miscalculation for Stenberg.
Yeah, it certainly was. This is he was in the pit lane. He actually had to pit a lap from home, so he was stationary in the lane when the race leaders came past and put him a lap down. So very, very lucky to walk away with a much reduced points deficit at the end of the day. We have a look at the point standings in between qualifying and the race, just to show you where that margin went from. It was nearly 200 points coming into that particular round, and it has narrowed down, I think, to 93. It was a huge swing in favour of Will Devonish, and Brenton Foley took a huge chunk out of that as well. So those guys are not too far away from being right up there. Although that being said, just looking at the back end of the practice results, with the drivers' briefing just been concluded, the top 3, Kurt Stenberg, Will Devonish and Colin Warwick, 2 and about quarter of a second separating that top 3.
Yeah, the qualifying laps at the moment, it's looking about the top 10 cars are separated by about a second. As we tick over into qualifying now, so let's see if the top 10 cars can stay within a second. We've probably had a few more people join while the session was just ticking down.
Yeah, we're up to 18 drivers total, which is still pretty good turnout, pretty healthy for what we usually have. Anywhere from about 16 to 20 cars seems to be the norm nowadays. We know there's a few guys not able to make it tonight. Phil Boak, we understand, is a late withdrawal. So too D2 Dwayne Davies in the other of the VF Commodores from the PBF stable. We understand Brendan Ross is going to drive the Phil Boak 046 car in terms of team points tonight, which will be great to see. And we're just waiting for laps to get underway here. Looks like the service has gone into what we'd like to call the synchronising phase. We haven't got any cars out there in the garages just yet. This is something that's only been happening fairly recently with AMS Oz as well. There we go. Now it's got its act together. Everybody's out and getting ready to go. Looks like Luke Rosella's going to lead the field away for qualifying, which will be
got a bit of
first.
a traffic jam.
Yep.
Let's see if someone will let Foley in.
Yeah, everybody's looking at them all. They're all queuing up.
Stenberg. Will Stenberg let him in? Oh, look at this. A Turbo's trying to get in as well. A bit of rub there.
Yep, they're all trying to get out.
Oh, Stenberg let him in. This is like Barbagallo in 2013. This is like Scaife and Crompton and all that.
No, you go first.
No, you go first. Oh, it's just polite driving. No, where's the competition? No, I guess we're not fighting for anything more than a box of chocolates, are we? We're not fighting for sheep stations in this, but the pride on offer is very important. And Luke Rosella, for all Australian races in the Volvo 1998 Volvo S60 livery, or the S80 or whatever it is. I can't remember what it was, but I know it's a Volvo. It's a Volvo, and it was driven by Rickard Rydell and Jim Richards in the 1998 AMP 1000 winning car.
Well, the livery's got some pedigree. Well, he's got to put it on pole, and he's got to be right up the front. But this is what worries me a little bit, Hans. There's plenty of guys that are close together here at a tight confines. Oh, the street circuit, as you see, one of the...
That's Pete Savage.
That's Pete Savage back there getting a little bit out of control already on the qualifying lap. Everyone needs to find their own space, and they need to find it rather quickly. The toe's not really important here. You get a little bit of a slipstream going down to turn 1, but the rest of the circuit you spend preparing yourself for the next corner. So you haven't got a lot to gain by following in the wheel tracks of somebody here. But we are going to get an onboard lap, And let's have a look here, Hans. You can take us through Luke Rosella's point of view at Townsville.
Up through the gears now, up to 6th gear. You can hear this Yamaha developed V8 engine roar. Down to 2nd gear, I think he's using. Here the rev's a bit low there. Try not to get too much wheel spin. Up to 4th gear into this short section. And back down to 2nd gear. A lot of 1st and 2nd gear corners around here. Try not to spin up the wheels. Use all the curb. Don't go over the yellow line. And just float the car in through here. 3rd gear. Just keep the car nice and gentle. Don't use too much curb. Here we can use a lot more curb than last year. As we saw last year, Turmo managed to get up onto 2 wheels. He managed to save it. Then in this section, in this curve straight, we get up to 5th gear. And then down 3 gears, down to 2nd. Some guys might use 1st here just to get punched off the corner really easily. And up to 3rd gear, back to 2nd. Sorry, I should say 4th gear, now back to 2nd. And then straighten it up, try and go for another lap at the Reed Park circuit in Townsville in Queensland.
1 minute 11.275, which is comparable to the times we were seeing in the practice session, immediately already gazumped by Kurt Stenberg, going into the mid-110s. So qualifying pace is going to be in the 10s tonight if you want to be on the front row. The times start to come in thick and fast, and we did see a little bit of running wide of some of the ideal lines for Luke Rosella. Being said, he's pretty close to the pole time through the Sector 1 split on this particular occasion. Warwick up into 3rd place. Pete Savage sitting 4th, and Burko, the 5th place man at the moment.
Got on the grass there, nearly did the Wing Cup in 2019.
Look at the amount of track use there as well. A lot of drivers going really, really wide and almost to the point of having both wheels.
Oh, he's around.
He's around. I was about to say having both wheels on the wrong side of the yellow line, and Rosella's gone around.
I was going to make a remark before he went around that maybe his setup, it's perhaps he needs to do a couple of laps to get the tyre pressures up, and sometimes doing that might get a bit of a benefit. Just noticed NZ Snipes, a good Super 2 racer that we enjoy racing with. You and I, we enjoy racing with in Super 2.
Yep,
G'day, Snipes.
Super 2 on tomorrow night for all of those that are interested.
And he says it's a great track for V8 racing. It does turn it on. As we're seeing, Colin Warwick very slow here, lets Burko pass. He's just stopped on the track. And I think, did he go to pits?
I think he may have. There's a couple of drivers that have just jumped past him as well. He was 3rd a split second ago.
He got out of that.
Yeah, this was one of the drivers that managed to jump ahead of him, was Brenton Foley and Pete Savage as well. Will Devonish, surprisingly, is only 6th quickest at the moment, having been inside the top 3 in the practice standings. His best time, as you can see on your screen there, is still well short of Stenberg's best effort, who's actually lowered the bar by a further 0.2 of a second on his 2nd flying lap. Now, we haven't seen how Devonish has been tracking on this lap. The sector times are not terrible, but they're not great either. And only improves by a fraction. Going to have to go again.
Come on, Will, dump the sandbags out of the car and keep going.
If that's some encouragement, and if there ever was, I don't know what it'll be. Foley does the right thing. Gets
Ooh,
away.
Roadie's in the wall.
Yeah, Roadie around.
So that's what happens when you gas it up too much there. If you use 1st gear, you need to be careful. But even if you use 2nd gear, the torque of the engine might spin you around. And speaking of the torque of the engine, Will Devonish is using it to great effect. He's 0.2 up on his PB and about 3.
Oh, big bounce. Big bounce through the curb part of that. And he's up on 2 wheels.
Up on 2 wheels.
Wow. That was a wild ride.
That was past the point of no return almost.
That was a big moment through turns 5 and 6. That was huge for Devonish. And look, you can see the clock has gone completely the opposite way to what it was. And that all started from that moment where he just took way too much curb at turn 5. The car bounced across the other side of the track. Then he wanted to try and take too much curb again. And the car just decided, you know what, it's time to get airborne, son. I don't agree with what you're doing.
Funnily enough, getting onto the grass, usually it's self-policing, but you might get a track cut in the process. So he was lucky not to get a track cut there. We'll see actually what the lap is like around.
12.
So he didn't get a track cut, but shocking lap, 1 minute 12.
Yeah, that was a dead set shocker, that one. I'll have to go again. Foley will just be trying to sit there thinking, come on now, I want to get my fastest lap going on as well. Who's in the top 10 that we're not expecting to be there at the minute? Some pretty good performances all around. Liam Spencer's up into P7. Brendan Ross done pretty well to get inside the 10 for the moment. And I understand that Lime Mitch has been trying out a couple of different cars tonight. He wasn't quite 100% convinced that all the cars were identical, but he's reverted back to his Monster Energy Mustang. obviously now having done all those trials and tribulations, understands where the baseline is at.
Yeah, I believe these cars use all the same physics, but you never know. There is a little bit in the mental game as well.
I think it's more a mental game than anything when he was trying all those other cars out.
Lewis Wedding in the live chat, he's just announced that Billy Dougal-Salonga has the vehicle tow bug, so that means he's out for qualifying.
Yeah,
usually it says about 1,500 seconds or something ridiculous like that, which is like, what is it, like half an hour or something?
Oh,
if there's 3,600 seconds in an hour.
Yeah,
but
it's terrible.
There's F's in the chat going everywhere.
Oh, here we go.
And Will Devonish
jumps up to second place, but he's still got a huge margin. But look at the fine margin back to Pete Savage and Brenton Foley not far away as well. I think Foley must have just improved his time as well, did he? No, he was a couple of tenths away, but he is very, very close. Again, look at these fine margin times. You've got Rosella and Warwick really close together. You've got Liam Spencer and Steve Burko. Brendan Ross has actually moved ahead of the pair of them now, so that's very good showing by Rossi right now.
Yeah, Ross is in the 046 PBF Holden Racing Team Commodore.
Yeah, Phil Boak's car for this particular round. A little bit of a slide job on exiting out of 6.
Gee, he's pushing it hard.
Yeah. As I
He's
said,
just borrowing the car, but he's still giving it a red-hot go. He's about 2 tenths up, or slightly under 2 tenths up on his PB, 2 tenths down on the pole time. So if he can continue that through, because if he continues that through, he'll be going for second.
If he continues that through where he is right now, 2 tenths up will put him very close to Colin Warwick's time. If he can find another tenth or so, the car just wanted to wiggle there under acceleration out of the hairpin on the run up to the final corner. Driving it very straight. Wonder if it's a BYO engine for this car for the weekend. We're not entirely sure. Found some more time. Again, look at the finite margins. He jumped up ahead of Colin Warwick. Lai Mitch jumped up as well. Look at this margin again. Look, this comes back to what we spoke about last week. He fit the gap in between Rosella and Warwick in a gap that was not designed to take another car on the timing screens. Look at this.
Wow, look at that.
That's the margin. The margin is incredible. When you look at
400ths of a second.
It's the difference from Rosella to Brendan Ross is 16 thousandths, and then it's a further. Then from Ross to Colin Warwick, it's 25 thousandths of a second. That is absolutely bonkers. We saw that at Calder Park.
Meanwhile, new fastest lap in qualifying 1:10.385.
Oh yeah, that bar is getting lowered and lowered at an awesome rate by Kurt Stenberg, and just continuing to push the envelope. New livery on the car for this weekend. He has ported the livery he normally runs in iRacing. I'm actually a bigger fan of this livery than the original. I just like the contrasting white and the black. Have a look as the car comes around. You see it's got a bit of black at the back. Just takes away a lot of the white that was there to begin with and just flows really, really nice. It's actually quite a nicely done livery, that one.
Yeah, it is quite good looking, actually.
Oh,
bit taily there. I don't think Stenberg was quite strong in the first sector, but in the second sector he set another purple sector. And on the fastest lap by, which was a 1:10.385, that was a purple second and third sector. Just in this lull here, I'll just see that who's saying hi in the chat.
But some of the fellow guys from Super 2 have all jumped in.
We've got the Super 2 Kiwis in here. We've got Tim Redmond, hello. And Scott Stancliffe, he can't make it tonight, so hopefully we get to see him tomorrow in Super 2. Yeah, Nathan Higginson, he's working on the 1993 to 2003 or 2002 rather mod for V8 Supercars, so that's going to be fantastic, and can't wait to see that out there. And I believe there was a couple of other people as well.
There was
it was Brian Walsh, and there was someone else. There's a mate of mine, the Midnight Owl 13. Hello, Tim. I can see you there.
Yep. Right.
He's referring to one of my sponsors in the ATCC series.
He certainly is. We're watching Lewis Wedding, hopefully finally going to set a lap, and he'll be the last man to set a lap, given that BDS or Paul Morris in this instance has the tow bug. So he goes for 11th. Now, speaking of the people that are in the chat, I have noticed one Kirsten W mentioning...
Kirsten? She hates being called Kirsten.
Oh, what is it?
Kristen.
Kristen, sorry. I get my eyes confused. You need to explain. She seems to have a very distinct affection for you in GT3.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. She just keeps inviting herself into my life. What do you say? What did Scafey said when he got married again? He said, I got myself a new handbrake.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible.
No, I kid. People ask me, is she a friend or is she a friend? And I say, no, she's a friend? Question mark? I don't know.
Okay.
It's a bit on again, off again. We'll see what happens.
I think all will
we'll
be-
see. We'll see how her mood changes to me after she hears this, and then I don't know. She'll dump me for the fourth time, and then invite herself back into my life for the
Well, let's
fourth
just
time.
say
But
all
hello,
will-
Kristen.
Yeah.
I like your support. We
All-
like it.
All will be revealed in time. Let's just put it that way. I think that's the best that can be said at the
All will be
moment.
revealed in time, in due course. They say.
Yes, correct. All right, quick stock take of the top 10. Stenberg from Devonish. Foley has now started to get pretty close to Will Dev's time, which is good. Pete Savage and Luke Rosella round out your 5. Brendan Ross is still in 6th place. Colin Warwick and Liam Mitch, Liam Spencer, and this man on screen, Steve Burko, the last man inside the 10. So there has been a little bit of shuffling inside the top 10 with regards to some of the times. I'm surprised that Colin Warwick hasn't been able to replicate the same sort of form that he was doing in practice. He was on, I think, an 11.2 was his best lap in the practice session, where he's 5th place a minute, and it's an 11.3, so pretty close to replicating it, but just hasn't been able to get that, elevate it to that next level in qualifying. So maybe he didn't do some, this was his ultimate pace. I'm not 100% sure. Time will tell when we get to the race session in about 10 or so minutes. As he gears up for another bite at the cherry, get another 2 laps in at least. Yeah, this will be 2 more flying laps. Pretty much, if you're not on track now, you are not going to get another lap. Now, who's sitting in the...
Foley's up. Foley's up on the pole time. He's up by 5/100ths of a second, or 5. Yeah, no, 5/100ths of a second. I forget my decimal points for a second.
Oh, very
he's
wide.
Off the road.
Very wide, and I'm not surprised. I won't be surprised if that registered track cut and he is aborting.
And he's aborted the lap. See you later.
Yep. Well, we'll stay with him.
That's actually a purple first sector, though, so if you can keep that run through the first sector and hold on for the second and third, I think he'll be right.
That's purple by 0.5 as well. If you look at the times that came in, Foley 20.947, Stenberg a 9.91, and Devonish a 9.97. So all very close through that first sector, but a purple for Foley by 0.5. Well, will he get to the? He'll get to the line with enough time. If he butchers this lap, he will get one more. All the guys behind are going to be marginal if they get another one or not. So Foley in 3rd, and then crossing the line now was Hathaway, and behind him was Will Devonish. So out of the drivers behind that, the next one is Colin Warwick, who will only get one more throw. Foley again up at the first sector. Really, really good through that opening sector. Nice and clean and nice and smooth. This is the problem sector. A little bit of curb there. That's pretty good. Need a little bit of curb here. Missed the apex completely, but he didn't butcher it on the outside like he did last time. Doesn't use all the road at turn 7 and 8. In actual fact, lost a lot of time as well. Lost a huge amount of time by just tapering that aggression a little bit. Looks like he's aborted this one as well.
Oh,
going
look
very
at Rosella.
slowly.
Rosella is 1,000th down at the first sector, but he did tag the wall coming out of the, I don't know which corner that is. That must be the second or third corner.
No, yeah, it's a bit
Depends
of a
if
weird
you
one here.
Oh, he's off the road as well, so he's thrown that
Foley.
away.
Yep, he's done. No more
So
improvement
no
for him.
more improvement for him. He's just going to park it on the side of the road and walk to pits.
All right, so the next man we wanted to look for here is Brenton Foley. So he will get one last shot. There he goes. So he is going to get another flying lap. Mitch Hathaway will get one more as well. Very, very lucky boy. The next man on the circuit we want to find is the second place man in Will Devonish, and he does not improve. Does not improve. And then behind him it was the 7th place man of Brendan Ross, who did not improve as well. 5th place man Colin Warwick will not get another lap. He did improve. He improved by about 0.5. Next man is 18th place man Rhodey, and he sets a PB. Good job.
Cam Rutledge on a lap as well. Final roll of the dice for Cam Rutledge.
Yep, so he's here. Now, we have just lost one driver from the server. I'm trying to work out who that was that vanished, because everybody's moved up the order one. Rutledge was actually in 15th. Improves his time. Good job.
Pete Savage has left the game.
Yeah, so that'll be the reason why there. And Stenberg, who doesn't really need to improve, doesn't improve. But, oh, geez, look at the time. Very, very close run thing there. Next man across is Termo.
Shows
And
good consistency.
is there an
from
improvement from
Stenberg,
him?
actually.
No, he's aborted that lap. We want to find Brenton Foley, though. No improvement from Foley on this run. And then Brendan Ross is the only man still on track, but no, he's already finished his lap, so he will come to the lane. So Stenberg from Devonish, Foley from Warwick, Rosella, Ross, below Mitch, Liam Spencer. Burko moved up the order to 9th, and then Mitch Hathaway's 10th, but I believe that is with the omission of one Pete Savage from the running order. So we will... Pete Savage, I think, from memory, slotted in somewhere around about 6th place. I think from memory, Brendan Ross was meant to be 7th. So not a bad run thing in the end, but it has resulted in yet another pole position for Kurt Stenberg. He has a big habit of racking these up. The only downside for him is not being able to convert a couple of those pole positions into some good starts recently, though.
Yeah, he's definitely had the form this season, but I guess that we can consider Calder Park a bit of a bogey round for him. It didn't go well, but he's still in the lead of the championship, and he's got a very healthy margin, 93 points at the moment. But anything can happen. We did see that Foley had a shocking start last season, and he managed to overrun Phil Boak in the second half of the season. So it can be done, but Will Devonish, he's definitely got to get a wriggle on.
Yeah, he sure has got to get a wriggle on. Time for our community hot lap segment. This one, well, we were really scraping the bottom of the barrel for this one when we were looking for volunteers, I guess you can call
you
it.
put that in such a nice way, Steve. You're really scraping the bottom of the barrel. I think he will do a fantastic job. Give the boy a chance.
Well, we will give him a chance. It's over to Benjamin Rhodes for this one, and he volunteered and said, I'll step in and fill the void. So let's have a look at what he managed to do.
Hey guys, it's Brody here, driving the number 010 PVF Academy, Red Bluff Brewers Motorsport VF Commodore, and I'm here to take you for a guided lap around the 13-turn Reed Park Street Circuit in Townsville. Sliding our way down to the last turn there, turn 13, and we want to start our lap by getting the best launch possible off of this corner. No short shift there to first, which meant we kept the wheel spin under control. And we're now on our way down towards turn 1, which isn't really a turn. This is turn 1 coming up now. This is a little kink here on our way down Boundary Street. Turn 2 was the first major turn of the circuit. We're braking just before about the 150 board. Back down to second, trying to stay on that time mark you can see, but we're just a little wide of it. And we're on our way down Charles Towers Road now, down towards turn 3. You want to try and aim for that little bollard on the inside, and then right over the outside through that dip, you near the wheel spin kick up, and you're on the way down to turn 5. Turn 5, third gear left-hander, a little bit of curb but not too much. Same with turn 6, third gear right-hander, a little bit of curb and you can use that runoff on the outside. On our way down towards turn 7 and 8, the shorter versions of 5 and 6, second gear corners these two. And then watching the wheel spin again, short shift there up to third, up to fourth through turn 10, across the hump that is Boundary Street. On our way down now towards turn 11, back down to first gear here. Got to watch the wheel spin on the way out, and you're going to hear I'm going to short shift again. There I go. Up to second, up to third, and up to fourth on the way down to turn 13. And again, same as last lap, want to get a beautiful run off this last corner, which we just managed to keep off the ripple strip, didn't spin the wheels too much, and that is our lap around the 13-turn Townsville Street Circuit at Reed Park. I'd like to thank Red Bluff Brewers, DriveX Australia, Drive Go-Karting, Trackstar Racewear, Logitech G, and the PVF race engineering crew for getting me here, and I'll hand you guys back to Nether and Hans.
Well done, Rhodey. Not a bad job at all, and nice segue to hand it back to us here in commentary. Thank you very much, as well as getting a plug in for your sponsors. There it is, the Reed Park Street Circuit. 13 turns. This time around, instead of being the 170-odd kilometre race, it's a 200-kilometre affair, so the lap count goes up. The pit strategy becomes very, very important in terms of working out how much fuel you'll need to get home from the critical point in time on the lap. And look at that, track records down the bottom. We have already broken the qualifying lap record from last year. That honour will now go to Kurt Stenberg with a 1 minute 10.3 was his best lap. The race record is an 11 flat from last year's event from JP Curio, which we do suspect we might go pretty close to breaking. Hans, the one thing that we pointed out, or the four things rather that we pointed out last time we ran this circuit last year, was the four critical parts of this circuit, or four critical characteristics. The bumps, the turns, the hard stops, and staying out of trouble. They are the four critical things on a street circuit to get right. Suspension tuning for riding the bumps and riding those curbs and taking those turns is absolutely critical. The hard stops getting into turn 1, turn 3 and into the hairpin very, very important, as well as staying off those walls, as well as staying out of trouble. It's not an easy track. The Super 2 guys have already demonstrated that. It's going to be no different tonight.
Yeah, definitely, and especially trimming your car, especially as the weight shifts in the car, as fuel burns off. Very important to do that. You might want to go a bit down on the roll centre, or make an adjustment to the anti-roll bars, and make sure that there's a bit more give in the rear of the car. You don't have as much weight, and having the a stiffer anti-roll bar, really good for a high fuel load, maybe a bit more brake bias to the rear, but then as the stint goes on, you want to move the brake bias forward, and you want to be able to soften the rear anti-roll bar. And even as the tyres come off, you might even want to soften the front anti-roll bar, and with a bit more focus on the rear. But also, here's a big moment. Here was a big moment from last year, which caused a bit of controversy.
Hathaway,
Steve?
Yeah, Hathaway and actually the Billy Douglas along with that was and JP Courier getting together at a critical point in the circuit, with the curbs have been flattened this year to help that out, which is great to see.
Zach Ross blowing an engine as well.
Yeah,
so engines are going to take an absolute pounding here.
Yeah, you don't want to come down too many gears at the wrong corner, or you're going to be in trouble. Those second gear corners don't like being turned into first gear corners by any stretch of the imagination. Let's go and have a look at our point standings before we get underway tonight. So coming into tonight's proceedings, Kurt Stenberg still leads the championship, but we did say his lead has been much reduced coming out of the Calder Park round. It was up near 200 points. It's been almost halved back to 93, the deficit between him and Devonish. Brenton Foley back there in third place. Mitch Hathaway managed to maintain fourth despite not being able to make the Calder Park round, and then Steve Burko vaulted his way up the order as well. So there was a bit of change in the back end of the top 10 in the running order post Calder Park. Our man in focus this week has been Cam Rutledge, and he was front and centre with that little incident with Kurt Stenberg, which wasn't any of Cam Rutledge's doing. He was just doing the right thing, keeping off the racing line, keeping to himself. This is comparisons from the last year. A 7th place finish in the championship, 4th on the road, his best finish, and this year sitting about a similar spot on the standings. Points are obviously a different concern, but 2 8th place finishes, and with a lot of drivers having upped their game this year, and a few newcomers into the series, such as Colin Warwick, Kurt Stenberg, and a couple of those guys, sees him a little bit further down the order in terms of the finishing position. But the one thing that he will say, and a number of his teammates also say, is that he has improved his overall driving from last year to this year, and that's a positive thing to see. We go across to the team's points, and team's points is still very much in the hands of CRE Race Engineering.
Yeah, CRE Race Engineering. That's Will Devonish and Cam Rutledge, I believe. Cam Rutledge being the B driver, if I'm correct.
I think it's actually, if I look on the order here, it's Will Devonish, and a bit further down the order, it's Liam Spencer actually is paired with him, and the other pairing is Cam Rutledge and Tomo.
So that makes a lot more sense. That opens up the image now. So CRE Race Engineering doing a solid job. PBF Race Engineering up there. Good to see Rossi jumping into Phil Boak's car to get a bit more points in the team's game. Not an ideal run last time out at Calder, because Phil Boak did have a DNF. Lou Simsport in third place. CRE Motorsport, that's the other team. That's Cam Rutledge and Turmo, and Trans-Tasman Racing, the sole entrant for Trans-Tasman Racing. That's Kurt Stenberg. Same as the individual drivers' points on 1668 points there.
Scuderia Alitalia we've brought up into focus from this season to last season, just seeing where they finished overall. They'll be fair to say that they're in it for a bit of fun and a learning experience. They're not really seriously looking to threaten the top end of the standings. I mean, they are on the outside of the top 12 on your screen there with 348 points. Not having been able to make it to all of rounds, so Brian Walsh, Glenn Miles, and when he's able to make it, Mike Coulston over in Saudi Arabia jumps in as well and has a bit of a spin around in these cars. Hoping to see Mike tomorrow night in Super 2 actually. But the good thing about the Scuderia Alitalia boys is they're in it for the right reasons. They're in it to have a little bit of fun, a little bit of enjoyment, learn a little bit as well. And in some cases, in some of the other series, they drive actually pretty well considering some of the talent in some of the fields as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They do have a good showing in Brock's ATCC series. Brock Harvey does a good job with that. And also in Super 2, there's quite a good representation from those same drivers. Different cars, but the same drivers in that team. And also when a certain Italian, who's not being, how do I say it, he's not being hamstrung by COVID restrictions, when he can make it to Australia, he does a good job. That I speak of Aldo Benedetti.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, COVID has derailed his plans for this season, entering with Scuderia Italia. And just a bit of a note in the live chat here. Pete Savage, he says, my PC has decided to do the Windows 10 update, so he's looking doubtful for this race. So that's very unfortunate. Pete was looking, he was a good performer in the GT3 World Series. We're looking forward to seeing what he can do
In the sprint format.
in the Sprint Series. Which is upcoming soon. Again, the Porsche Cup upcoming soon as well.
Yeah, that's the same thing that he's had happen to him is the same thing that's happened to Glenn Miles the last time out, I believe, at Calder Park as well. There's Windows update thing for Windows 10 is really, really terrible for a lot of people. Thankfully, the broadcast here runs on the Windows 7 platform. We don't have the same sort of issue. We can simply just turn the Windows updates off and say, hey, I'll update when I want to update myself, thank you very much. And sympathy obviously offered by, I can see SDS Racing, which is Glenn Miles in the chat, saying good luck to, not only to everybody in the thing, but good luck to Pete Savage getting himself in order. So they've just given the warm-up session a little bit more of an extension, just to see if he can make it back in time, so fingers crossed he does. You mentioned the GT3 Sprint Series calendar, Hans. We'll bring that up for the viewers right now. So that kicks off here on the Outworld Broadcasting channel in a little under 2 weeks. So this is a really different format to anything that not only have we run in AMS Oz before, but you never ever see this type of format in real life. This is going to be a 6-race calendar with 2 30-minute sprint races a night. The single qualifying session, progressive grid, and 2 30-minute sprints per night. Really different characteristics from a lot of these circuits on the calendar. They've each got they're all different, unique type of thing. There's a little bit of a technical drama here. But we're very much looking forward to seeing how much and how hard some of these drivers can push these GT3 cars when they don't have to worry about pit strategy or, you know, how the tyres are going to wear on that. It's basically get in the car and drive the thing.
Yeah, 30-minute races, short, sharp races for the GT3 Sprint Series. A very eclectic mix of tracks there. We've got a couple of Australian tracks in there as well. And a lot of, I think we've got a pretty good representation of tracks around the Asian region as well. We've got both in Japan, but very good, very established tracks. Bahrain, the Sakhir International Circuit, and the Road Atlanta finishing off there. Road Atlanta, very interesting circuit. It's almost like the S's, it's like up and down and side to side. It's fantastic. It's just really works the car and it really works the driver over. And on paper, Road Atlanta looks quite simple, but there's a lot of elevation change and it's a very interesting circuit.
Yeah, there's one person in ARW that's described Road Atlanta as looking like a pork chop, given how the map looks. And Madbird, if you're watching, that's a comment I stole from you, but that's stayed with me for some time. And I do agree with him. When I look at it on a map, it does look a little bit like a pork chop.
If you angle it this way, it kind of does look like a pork chop. But if you angle it the other way, if you angle the pork chop the other way, it looks like Simmons Plains, according to Floody and Chris last night. So... Who knows? Who knows? Everything looks like a pork chop, apparently.
Yeah, it does. Everything looks a little bit different.
And everything tastes like chicken.
Speaking of our friends, Kiwi Chris Riddell and Michael the Floodman Zalavaro, they did a fantastic job last night with the ATCC Group A stream. And that is one of the items that's on our upcoming events list for next week. Partway through, actually nearly at the end of AMS Oz's busiest week of racing in forever, basically. This is the 4th race in as many nights, with the 5th and final race coming tomorrow night, the Super 2 Championship, over on the Loose 89 channel. And Phillip Island is the Grand Prix circuit layout and the venue that we're going to tomorrow night. And then there's a little bit of a lull, thank goodness. Everybody can sit and catch their breath for a week. We might have a little social event next week. And then we get into the GT3 Sprint Series on the 14th of July over at Okayama. The 3rd round of ATCC Group A follows a night later, which is at Winton, and that's over on the Endurance Chat Media channel, no longer on the Short Shift Motorsport podcast channel. The boys, Chris and Michael have gone off and got themselves their own YouTube channel. And then Super 2 returns in 2 weeks' time, and that's going to be the first trip for Supercars in anger to Mount Panorama for this year. Of course, we're looking forward to seeing what we can do at Mount Panorama in the real Supercars in real life, but also for our own Supercars Championship a little bit later on. Comes around October sometime, and we've already been there this year in GT3, so we get to sort of see all the disciplines, or just about all the disciplines, at the mountain, which is pretty much what a lot of guys like to do anyway. They like to just pretty much come in and race at Mount Panorama, and that's about it.
If there's any way to get people racing in your online league, it's to say, we're going to Bathurst. And you'll, if you build it, they will come. If you include it in your schedule, they will come, it seems. But Super 2 at Mount Panorama, I don't know if you're nervous about it, but I'm pretty nervous about it. Seems to turn on the action. Yeah. And hopefully I can string a good lap together. I'm sure the Kiwi guys, the Kiwi crew watching in the live stream, they're going to be working hard trying to figure out something for Bathurst and Phillip Island tomorrow night. Yeah, they sure are. It's Phillip Island I'm looking forward to. I mean, I've driven it in the TCR series, which has now gone on to hiatus for a little bit. You've driven in real life as well.
And I've driven it in real life a few times as well. And I keep saying to everybody, I'm a little bit impartial to it because of that reason. You're nervous about Mount Panorama. I'm terrified because I like the challenge that it presents, but I'm not very good at circuit. I think my best lap is like 208s and 209s. I mean, I'm not certainly not up the front runners with the guys that are doing 202s and 203s in the supercars and stuff that I've seen before. So I'm just looking to keep my nose clean and stay out of trouble for that one, pretty much. Looks like we're not too far away from going racing. Looks like we have, unfortunately, not been able to get Pete Savage back into the race session. He's still got that little drama with his with his PC. So it looks like he's unfortunately set to miss tonight's proceedings, which means it moves a number of drivers up the field into the top 10. So some drivers that were going to be on the wrong side of the grid, or the side you don't want to be on, have now moved to the opposite side. That'll be a little bit getting used to.
Or it might just be that Peter is just a gap in the field, maybe? Who knows?
I'm looking to see. It looks like we've got a fairly even spread going down the order. There is one car, I think, that hasn't made it out to the pit from the pits just yet, and that's the 11th place Lewis Wedding, and there he is. He just makes his appearance now. So, yeah, we've got 18 runners, and we've got 9 rows total, not the 9.5. So here we go, Hans. The North Queensland 200 grid.
Kurt Stenberg, another pole position. Fantastic run with a 1:10.385, the pole time, followed by Will Devenish. He's still up there and fighting. He was about a couple of tenths down, and he's looking to try and get a good start. The pole being on the outside, he can try and keep it up side to side with Stenberg. Third place went to the ever-solid performer, Brenton Foley. Defending champion, he's got number 1 on the car. It's not looking like he's going to continue with number 1 unless some sort of drastic change happens, but he's up there for a fight. Colin Warwick, a car that had nothing on it and now has only nearly nothing on it, but pretty simple livery for Warwick, and he'll be distinctive in the all-black menacing ASC Racing ZB Commodore. That's followed by Luke Rosella coming off a stellar round at Calder Park Raceway, and Brendan Ross steps out of the Bunberg car into the PBF HRT car that's usually occupied by Phil Bloke. Lime Mitch, he's up there in his Monster Energy Mustang after testing a few of the different cars, followed by Liam Spencer in 8th place. 9th place was Steve Burko. He managed to spin on his final qualifying lap, so he didn't get to improve. And then that's followed by Mitch Hathaway, who makes his return to the series. Lewis Wedding is in 11th place. Pretty solid performance from him. Let's see if he can bring out some strategy tonight, as well as Termo. Let's hope that Termo can stay out of trouble in 12th place. The elder of the Spencers, Wayne was a Spencer, Top Gear Racing, Domino's Volvo. He'll be looking to bring the Volvo up there into a good position, stay out of trouble. Cam Rutledge in 14th, and Caelan Duncan in 15th in the Nissan Motorsport guest car, followed by Zach Ross in the Monster Energy Loose Sim Sport car. Unfortunately, the sole remaining Monster Energy Loose Sim Sport car. Rhodey in 17th, and the final car, Paul Morris, aka Billy Dougal Salonga. He had a vehicle tow drama, which means he couldn't partake in qualifying, so he'll bring up the rear of the grid.
want to get those lights off as well. And the lights are usually.
I think he's accidentally.
Yeah, I think he's
on.
probably accidentally got them on. Someone better let him know that he needs to turn those off. Maybe Pete Savage can go and let him know that he needs to take them off. As we said last year, Let's Go Racing North Queensland style for 71 laps. Lights are out. Away we go. Devenish got a really, really poor start. Stenberg got a really good one. Warwick had an absolute flyer off the second row of the grid. So it's Stenberg and Warwick 1 and 2. Foley third. Devenish fourth. Devenish is coming under attack. Luke Rosella has gone backwards a little bit. Trying to stay on the inside of Lime Mitch, who's had a really fast start as well up the order. Foley challenging Colin Warwick already as they run down to turn 3. Rosella has lost out to Lime Mitch and now coming under attack from the next Volvo in the line of Steve Burko. All pretty good so far. Looks like everybody's through pretty cleanly. Lewis Wedding, the big loser out of it as well, dropping 4 spots from 11th to 15th.
Steve Burko, a fast starter as well. He's up 2 spots from 9th. And Brendan Ross has gone back 2 spots, so not an ideal run in the PBF HRT Commodore 046. He's just occupying that car for Phil Burke, trying to get some team's points. And Will Devenish, he's trying to make a move on Foley. Oh, Foley goes down the inside of...
Oh, that's awkward for
Warwick.
Foley. That's really awkward for Foley. He committed hard and he ended up hitting the fence, so he's dropped a ton of spots. He's gone from 3rd or 2nd all the way back to 9th, now to 10th, having to fight with Mitch Hathaway to stay in 9th. He's slightly compromised here because Hathaway's got the better run around the outside, will have the better traction, and will now be on the inside for turn 1, which is just this little kink on the main straight.
Oh, big battle going on between Lime Mitch, Luke Rosella and Steve Burko. Luke Rosella going defensive. And as Burko goes around the outside, he's trying to sail around the outside, not quite, but Lime Mitch is coming under attack from Luke Rosella. If he can keep the nose up there, he might be half a chance to get up there in turn 3. Oh, 6 in one, half a dozen the other, not quite. Colin Warwick, meanwhile, he's been passed by Will Devenish, so Will Devenish back up to 2nd, but a shocking start so far. They've dropped about 4 seconds, or 3.5 seconds rather, to Stenberg.
Yeah, all this fighting and squabbling has really given Stenberg a free kick to just get out there and run his own race at the minute. Foley sort of set that chain reaction in place by going wide at the hairpin, and then everybody else profiteered from his mistake. Will Devenish has just profiteered in the last half a lap on Colin Warwick, but now he's really got the work to do. The gap is now out to 4 seconds, and that was only at the 2nd sector split, and we're only just coming up to complete lap 2 now. Stenberg clean sailing out in front. Look at the margin. The margin is already quite large. An 11.4 for a first proper flying lap to Devenish's 12.5. So now that Devenish has got the clear air, we'll see what he can do. A couple of cars back there with some headlights on. I'm not sure if that was Mitch.
That might be Billy.
I think it was, Billy Dougal Salonga still got his headlights on. Here goes Luke Rosella again on line Mitch. Got a lot further alongside this time. A little bit of a rub of the wall from the Monster Energy Mustang, but Rosella prevails up to P4. So that's 1 position advancement from where he started.
Not just that, the PBF 1-2 punch led by Brendan Ross and then Brenton Foley. They've managed to get past Liam Spencer. Liam Spencer going backwards at the moment. And he's going to come under attack from Mitch Hathaway if he's not careful. He's just looking a bit taily in these early laps. Uses a lot of the exit apron there. Careful.
Oh, a little bit of a rub of the wall. If somebody went past there, that might have been Lime Mitch again, who's now coming under some pressure from Steve Burko.
These two are teammates in Super 2.
They sure are. They want to be very careful. I mean, there's teammates in Super 2, but then there's no teams between these two in Supercars. It's all for themselves, but you're right, they will have to share a garage.
Yellow flag. Someone's around.
Yeah, so someone's around. It's Will Devenish has gone around. Okay, so that answers that question about why we had an incident at the final corner. Oh, and having to grab reverse, that's really dangerous as well.
Oh, he's just made it happen.
Let's have a look at what happened
Millimetre perfect from Devenish there, but unfortunately he's just ended up nosing into the wall. Let's see what's happened. He's going up through the gears, up to 3rd gear. Probably got a bit too early on the downshift. Let's have a look.
I think it might be under acceleration.
No, he's just gassed it up. He's taken a bit of curb and gassed it up while he's at it. So, yeah, he's just ended up nosed in the fence there, and he's had to pluck reverse and reverse into the field. So, shocking run for Devenish.
He's second to plumb last now as well. He's in between Rhodey and Caelan Duncan. That has really hurt his chances in this race. He's going to have to fight his way through the order. He's going to have to hope for a safety car somewhere along the line too, and profiteer from that as much as he can. This is something, well, he's a bit taily there as well, as Rhodey gives him a bit of space to run down the inside. This is something we've seen from Will over the course of the last couple of rounds. It all started back at Barbagallo, with the man that he's chasing at the moment in Zach Ross. The sense of get-there-itis, just not wanting to lose touch with Kurt too much, but just overdriving the car a little bit too much, and then Zach's made a bit of a meal of that one, so that's easy pickings for Will. But just overdriving the car a little bit too much, asking a little bit too much in here or there or wherever it happens to be, and then the mistakes have just started to creep in, and we saw that a lot at Calder Park, those 2 or 3 off-track excursions, just wanting to push the envelope just a little bit too far.
Yeah, you're spot on there, Steve. I think Will has a bit of a problem. He tries to make the move on someone when he's not quite able to decisively make the move, and what that does, it actually makes you lose more time because the car in front has to yield. You're not on the ideal line, and it just basically makes you go slower. Whereas if you stay behind someone until you know that you can make the move, then it's probably better for you to do. Meanwhile, Luke Rosella, he's caught up onto the back of Colin Warwick, and he's really giving the Commodore a big hassle at the moment.
He sure is. Over that horrible bump as they cross over Boundary Street on the run down to this section of the circuit, which is the purpose-made section of the Reed Park Street circuit. These two are over 7 seconds behind the race leader already after just on 5 laps. New fastest lap for Kurt Stenberg, an 11.115, so getting already really close to our lap record.
Yeah, I think we're half a chance to beat the lap record in the next few laps. Let's have a look. But, okay, Billy has his lights off now. Says
Didn't know
Pete
that, right?
Savage.
Yep, so Pete Savage done the right thing.
So
Jumped into that channel and let them know.
what I said before, I'm correct. So he actually flicked it on in the formation lap by mistake. But Brenton Foley is now ahead of Brendan Ross.
There'll be some team orders there, I'd imagine, between these two. And yes, they are. So Foley's now been released. And Liam Spencer's actually managed to jump ahead here.
Gee, look at that. Liam Spencer, he was dropping off the back of that group, but now he's given Rossi a big hurry up, and he's got past him.
That looked like that was a pretty recent move as well. Here it is on the replay, coming down into turn number 1. And yeah, Rossi just ran a little bit wide, just gave a bit of courtesy and left the room for Liam Spencer there. Oh, a little bit of bump and run on the exit, and they ran side by side down to 3. Really, really well done.
No foul.
No harm, no foul. That's fair racing.
Play on for another day.
Sure is.
Burko, he's trying to get the run on Lime Mitch. Coming into the final corner now. Let's see if he can make it.
He's on the wrong side.
He's on the wrong side of the road, so it's not going to happen.
Oh, trying the over and under. Oh, and then Foley tried to stick his...
brave.
Yeah, Foley tried to stick his nose in there, thinking that Burko was going to stay high and wide and had to pull out of it at the last minute. It hasn't been too bad for Burko, though. He's actually managed to come out of this with a decent tow. He's going to have to go the long way around, though. Lime Mitch is going to park it on the inside. Going to be very, very brave to go around the outside here.
Oh, he needs to be careful because Spencer's coming in with a full head of steam, and he might make the move on Foley here.
I think he sort of half made the move. Foley got better traction out of turn number 2. Was managed to pull ahead here. Burko's got it done.
Pull ahead now.
Yeah, Burko's got it done. I think that was a mistake from Lime Mitch at that particular part of the course. And look at this, Foley having to go super defensive offline here. Liam Spencer, just very, very close to sticking up the inside at 6 as well. And look at this, Mitch Hathaway looks pretty racy in behind Brendan Ross there as well.
Look at Lime Mitch, he's hungry on the curbs. He's using a lot of curb to get the car turned in.
Look at this train though, Hans. Look at all the way stretching back from Burko, Lime Mitch, then you've got Foley, Liam Spencer, looking at a move on Foley right now.
He's making a move.
That's a really opportunistic move, just at the last minute diving in there. I was about to say, then you had Liam Spencer.
There was a bit of rub there, because I saw the Foley car go sideways.
Yeah, Liam Spencer, then back to Brendan Ross, and then behind them, Hathaway, the other Spencer, Wayne Spencer, and then Lewis Wedding. It was a very angry train. And then in back a shot there, you had Paul Morris and Will Devonish starting his very long recovery trail back towards the top 10. I'm worried there's going to be an accident in this particular group of cars at the moment. There's just... The margins are so fine, and a little bit of rubbing here and there is okay, but you don't want this to carry on for too long.
This is a wild battle pack right now. It's like you can see the bees buzzing everywhere. It's absolutely wild. You're going to get stung in a moment. Here we go. Foley's trying to make the move. He pulls out of that one. A lot of curb there from Foley. Makes him a little bit vulnerable. A lot of curb there for Lime Mitch as well, and he goes off the road. He's going to have to yield.
Yep, vulnerable, and in an awkward spot as well. Just came right back on in front of Liam Spencer, so Liam won't be too pleased about that one. That allows Foley to escape and for Lime Mitch to continue being the
Rossi tagged the wall there.
Yeah, he did give the wall a bit of a rub. Liam Spencer's out-braked himself, and Foley's done it too. They've both done the same thing. They've both gotten on the curb, gassed it up a little bit, somehow managed to save it. That's going to give Rossi probably 3
Oh,
wide.
halfway
What a dive!
with the opportunistic move.
Big dive from Mitch
It's not going to
Hathaway.
work out because he's just got absolutely no mid-corner speed. He's going to be vulnerable to wetting here.
Oh, and he's not happy about it, but I can't say I have to blame anybody there but you for that one, Mitch. I think you went for the dive that was there. You just couldn't pull it up.
Should have a look at the replay. Oh, maybe not, because Spencer's trying to make a move on Rossi.
Yep.
Oh, this is all just wild at the moment. Hathaway sideways.
Oh, Weddings.
Lewis Wedding's going to make a move.
There he goes. Lewis Wedding's going to get the job done up to P9. Liam Spencer now has to go to work on the back of Rossi's 046.
Oh, Hathaway lost 2 spots there.
Yeah, he's dropped all the way back.
Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Colin Warwick and Luke Rosella, they're about 11 seconds off Kurt Stenberg, so Stenberg is just driving away off the front of this field.
Yeah, these two have been sort of glued at the hip for the better part of the last 3 or 4 laps now.
Now, I feel Rosella's just slightly faster than Warwick, but Warwick is he's just quick in all the right places. No shortage of Mumbo in a straight line from the ZB Commodore as we ride on board now. And we just see the rear wing element there just obstructing the view of Rosella's Volvo.
You just see the tow element here is really non-existent. They get past Zach Ross, who actually looks like he's come in for an early stop. We have lost Kalen Duncan from this race as well, so that was back on lap number 8. So that was just gone in the last minute or so. But you could see down the main straight there as we looked at the back of Colin Warwick's ZB Commodore that the tow really wasn't that important from the distance that Luke Rosella was behind. He needs to be a little bit closer and have a little bit better run off the final corner to really put that to some good use down at turn 2.
Yeah, a lot of the corners here are slow to medium type corners. You've only really got the main straight to draft, but I don't think the main straight is quite long enough to actually draft someone and make the move into turn 1. A very humorous comment from my mate Kristen.
Yep.
They're slithering around like snakes. There's no grip out there in Queensland, and there's a lot of snakes in North Queensland if anyone's ever been. And they call each other bloke up there as well. They say, "Can I have a 4X bloke?" At the bar.
So what, the word mate
Instead of mate,
the word mate doesn't exist?
They've not discovered the word mate.
That's like they hadn't discovered the word beer, because that's why apparently they called their beer 4X.
Yeah, look, I don't really know, but things are a bit different up there. But different is not necessarily bad, because the different racing that's being put on right now, it's actually quite good.
That's right. That's
and they do love their racing up there, so we love the North Queenslanders.
Yes, we do. And hello to everybody up in North Queensland. If you're watching from there, there's a couple of Queenslanders in the field tonight, Termo being one of them. And this battle continues now into about its 7th or 8th lap that these two have been locked together. Back in the field though, Burko and Foley have managed to kick away from what has been a pretty intense battle group. And they're now coming up to the lap traffic of Zach Ross. So not sure what happened to Zach Ross there. He's had a little bit of a moment somewhere. We'll take a look at what his lap times were.
So his last lap round was a 1:23.76, but the lap before that was a 1:50 something. So it was a very, very slow lap.
Yeah,
I believe
he came in for a stop.
Pits.
Yeah, he must have had some damage or hit a wall somewhere. His middle sector was an 18.4 back on lap 8. So he's had a huge moment somewhere and had to come in and probably repair some damage, I'd imagine.
Meanwhile, keeping tabs on Will Devenish's recovery. He's up to 9th now. He's just disposed of Mitch Hathaway.
And Brendan Ross. He's right in the thick of this battle group as we cut to it at the precise moment.
They're bumping. They're bumping
Lewis
side to side.
Wedding has profiteered from this enormously in that last little bit of corner. Now we're just seeing Brendan Ross come into the pit lane in the back of shot there as well. What I'm going to do is come back and have a bit of a look and see what Lewis Wedding's managed to do here. So he got a move done at the hairpin, just outbraked himself though, and then tried to stay with Lime Mitch through this part of the circuit. And there we go. Then fights back.
Look at that, they're bumping.
And Liam Spencer nearly got in there as well and managed to make it work. He just couldn't get the traction down.
See, Lewis, he's probably not the fastest driver in the field tonight, but he's one of the smarter drivers, and that's what he's able to do.
Oh, mid-corner wiggle! Big mid-corner wiggle from Liam Spencer.
Oh, that was wild. Lucky to catch that.
Oh, very good save. Very, very good save. He was right out sideways through turn 6.
His father Wayne will look at that later on and say, he learned everything from me.
Correct. Here goes Will Devenish down the inside of Lime Mitch's Mustang.
Makes it pretty easy for him.
Yeah, pretty easy job in the end. And this is what he needs to do. He just needs to pick the right moment, to make the move stick. Now, he'll be on the horn to Liam Spencer ahead and just say, just sit there nicely, please, fella, and give me a nice little tow.
Wayne Spencer, I believe he's come into the pits. His last lap round was 2:06. Cam Rutledge as well, and Brennan Ross. Yeah, we've marked on it before that he did come into the pits.
Yeah.
So 3 cars in through the pits, and Zach Ross, I believe he's DNF lap 9.
Yeah, so he's out as well. Now, this is interesting. This is very, very early for some stops, but given that this is a longer race compared to what it was last year, to the tune of nearly 30 kilometres, the inverse strategy might start to be here, going off sequence to everybody else. We haven't spoken about it very much. A lot of drivers will start with a full tank and then they'll run the tank down. What I think some of these drivers, like your Brendan Rosses and your Wayne Spencers and Cam Rutledges have done, is they've been sitting behind traffic or sitting in these battle packs. They've now extricated themselves from that mess.
Clear air advantage for sure.
Yeah, big clear air advantage. Get out there, run their own race. They're now on the opposite strategy to everybody else. They don't have to share the pit booms with anybody else when they come into the lane. They don't have to fight for position. But it'll be interesting to see what the short-term gain is against some of these drivers who are already well into a stint versus the pain at the back end of the race. They're going to have to do their final stint is going to be a longer stint than usual than you would do at the back end of a race. Most of these drivers are going to go long stint, shorter stint. They're going to do the complete opposite, so they could be vulnerable at the back end of this race.
Yeah, that's right there, Steve. But considering the clear air advantage, they can actually use their new tyres, and they will be able to. And it's not so much about trying to race, the guys like Warwick and Rosella and Stenberg. It's about racing the guys that you were racing against in that battle pack. So just by pulling out of that battle pack, you will be able to gain time. While the battle pack rages on, you just keep going. Just get your head down, bum up, and off you go. Set some good laps, consistent laps, and hope that it comes back to you later on.
Precisely. Wedding is under siege from Will Devenish here at the moment. We're looking pretty aggressive through the 2 chicanes. Going to make a move now down the inside at the hairpin.
Rutledge gets out of the way.
Yeah, Rutledge gets out of the way.
Good job there.
I'm surprised that Lewis didn't give him a little bit more room there, but I'm also surprised that Will didn't back out a lot sooner, knowing that that gap was going to vanish. Now, can he stay with Wedding and get a nice little tow on the run down to turn number 1? We'll go on board from the roof cam here. Now, here's an illustration of how the draft works. Oh, he had to lift there. You heard it. And Wedding's gone to the defensive and puts the brakes on very, very early.
He's going to try and switch back here, try and get it in for turn 3.
Oh,
Wedding,
nice
no mid-corner
move.
speed there.
Yeah, nice move by Will Devenish. As you called it completely there, Hans. Went for the switchback, stayed wide, got the better purchase out of the corner, and Wedding, in his haste to pick up the throttle to try and cover it off, it just jumped sideways on him. Level back of that from the outside. We were on board with Devenish at the time. We'll get a much better picture of how it all went down from the trackside cam. In actual fact, Devenish was trying to commit to the inside, but Lewis was there, and here it is. And yeah, Lewis just tried to slow it up in the middle of the corner and get the defensive block on, and wasn't in the right spot to make it happen. And as you said, the car just jumped completely sideways on him.
So Will Devenish up to 6th now. Oh, Liam Spencer, he's going to get past.
Yeah, nice move.
Wedding here. That's a pretty solid move.
That was a nice
And
opportunity.
He's stuck side by side with him for a while, but they're going to be side by side again into the final corner. Oh, this is brave.
Got it done.
FGX versus the ZB Commodore, and advantage to the ZB Commodore of Liam Spencer. Now let's see if he can try the switch back into turn 1. Meanwhile, at the head of the race, we've got Luke Rosella. He is absolutely glued to the back of the ZB Commodore of Colin Warwick.
Yeah, these two are still going on. Now, Foley's managed to get ahead of Steve Burko as well.
Burko was running quite well up in 4th, so probably a mistake in the last couple of laps or so.
I think he also may have potentially let Foley go and tried to hang on to him, but Foley's managing to clear out here. But yeah, these two have been stuck together. Like Luke Rosella's been giving the rear bumper of Colin Warwick ZB a real working over. In actual fact, here he goes down the inside at turn number 12. Sorry, turn 11, sorry, not turn 12. He pulls the trigger and finally gets it done.
He's defensive into the final corner as well. Colin Warwick is going to try the switch back. Can't get the nose in.
Yeah, Colin Warwick's got a better run out of the final corner here. What Rosella needed to do was just open up the steering a little bit more and just try and take a bit more of that line towards the exit curb on the right-hand side. He was probably a bit worried about Warwick being there and cutting the nose off. And now, as we said, Warwick got the much better exit. Now he's got inside line for turn 2. But Rosella's got very, very nice drive out of that turn. And will he hold into 3?
Oh,
Just.
that's brave.
That's very brave and
Probably
just.
a bit of contact there. No harm, no foul.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Brendan Ross, DNF. He was DNF on lap 13. And he announced that his game has just crashed on him. That's him in the chat.
Yep, correct. So
And disaster for PBF in the team's points, so it hasn't quite worked out. So robbed of a potentially good result for the team. And he was actually doing a pretty solid job there, up in the top 10.
yeah, he definitely was.
Paul Morris, meanwhile, he's up into the top 10 as well. He's at the back end of the top 10.
Yeah, from the rear of grid, starting in 18th, take out the 3 DNFs. So that's a 5-place gain at the moment, with 4 cars by the looks of things that have already come in for their first round of stops. So following after his teammate Mitch Hathaway, and actually I had to say 3-car train, Lou Simsport train. So Spencer heads Wedding, who heads Hathaway, and then Paul Morris is just trying to catch up onto the back of them at the moment. And then your last man on the lead lap is Termo, with all the other cars having taken service. In the line, Mitch, Wayne, Spencer, Cam Rutledge and Rhodey have all come in and taken service in the opening 15 or 16 laps. And now there's a change of position with Mitch Hathaway going through ahead of Lewis Wedding on this lap. The Lou Simsport HDS crew making their return to the Supercars Championship. The last time we saw Mitch Hathaway was at Barbagallo. He missed the Calder Park round. And the last time we saw Billy Dougal Salonga was race number 1 at Barbagallo. He was a non-starter for race 2.
Good to see them back after a bit of a hiatus. And Mitch Hathaway's up 2 spots from his starting position. So not too bad so far. And he's going to try and make an impression on the back of Liam Spencer, the young charger. He's proven himself in Super 2 to be a quite quick runner. And he's trying to prove himself in Supercars right now in the Pro B class.
Yeah, there was a bit of talk about possibly moving Liam Spencer up to the Pro A class, which means that you don't run with any of the assists. But at this stage, he's been left in the Pro B class. Luke Rosella, on the other hand, was the other man under observation. And after his really stellar results, he has been moved up into Pro A effective as of this round, which means all his previous rounds also count towards a Pro A championship. And, well, when you're in the top 3 on the last 2 races of the championship and also some pretty stellar results on debut at Barbagallo, why wouldn't you be classified as Pro A? I understand he actually was running no assists anyway.
Yeah, it just shows that he's a pretty quality driver. And we're just looking at live races now. The number 1 is on fire. That's referring to Kurt Stenberg. He's on a pretty good lap at the moment. So he's setting the pace by far. He's actually done last lap by a 1:11.29. So that's about just 2/10 off his quickest. And this is getting later into the stint.
Let's have a look at those lap times that he's been doing over the course of the last few laps as well, because this is something that we don't have a great opportunity to take a look at a lot of the time. He's been consistently in the 11s for the better part of the race. So his last 5 laps, an 11.2, an 11.6, an 11.9, an 11.6 and an 11.3. And I don't recall there being another lap outside of that for some time. It was back on lap 12 he had his worst lap of a 1 minute 12.6, and that was the only exception. There was a poor last sector in there. That was the only reason for that. But ever since his first proper flying lap, so that's outside of the race start and outside of the odd lap that he had there, every other lap has been in the 1 minute 11, so setting a really, really good pace.
Luke Rosella has made a bit of a margin on Colin Warwick of about 3 seconds, or 3 seconds on the dot pretty much, but he's got 20 seconds up the road to Stenberg, so I don't think Rosella's pace is quite so good at the moment, but he is definitely best of the rest as far as the rest of the field goes. Yeah,
his last lap around was a 12.5. Now he's done a 12.0, so that lap time's starting to come down. But compared to Kurt Stenberg's 11.8 last time around, he's losing a couple of tenths a lap. And I think it's more a fade of Colin Warwick's pace than it is an improvement of Rosella's pace. I think Rosella probably had the speed all along, sitting in behind Colin Warwick, was just waiting for the right opportunity to pass when it presented itself. now that it has, he's been able to get out again in the clean air and get going. What I'm interested to see, though, is the kind of lap times that the other drivers that have already come in and taken service are currently putting out. So let's go back to the first of those ones. Oh, as you see, Rody just getting out of the way down there at turn number 1. Oh, Paul Morris around! As we're
Just switched
cycling
to him and he's just lit it up.
As
He's
we're cy-
around.
yeah,
He needs to be careful rejoining the
Oh,
traffic here.
Yeah, he needs to be really careful. There goes Termo, so he's lost a spot. So there it is.
Smart decision
He's
there
going
to
to
pick up reverse.
got to get his
Oh,
3.4,
needs to get a move on.
5 point turn on here.
A 1 million point turn, as James May would say.
Mm-hmm. Well, here we go, down at turn 1. That's all it was. Let's see what it is. Pick up the accelerator too much. Yep, just a little bit too early.
Gets away from him.
Yep,
The
just
old
a
lock diff.
Yep, and did the right thing too when he saw the traffic coming. And that occasion wasn't. That's where the track map in AMS Oz becomes paramount, knowing what traffic is coming and staying in the right spot. So that's a mistake from Paul Morris. That's dropped him outside the top 10. We're on our way back to this man, Lime Mitch. He was one of the cars that had come in for a stop and is now in the process of being lapped. He's been lapped by He's been lapped by Luke Rosella. He's been lapped by our race leader. Probably not far away from being lapped by Colin Warwick as well. His lap times, having been running in clean air for probably about the last half a dozen laps or so, his best overall was a 12.7 and a 12.5, and that was 2 laps ago. He actually registered a track cut on one of those laps, having come out of the pits as well. So he hasn't been setting the world on fire, though, has he, Hans? Look at this, minute 13 in there. There's the track cut. There's a 12.5, which is his best. And there's also a 12.7 in there. This lap is still in progress. And let's see what it is.
Compared to the drivers he was racing, though, I don't think he's doing quite that terribly, because Lewis Wedding just did 12.9, Termo 13.9, Mitch Hathaway 13.0, Liam Spencer 12.7. So, I mean, if he's consistent, he can probably make a little bit of time there, but then, running off sequence, there's a little bit in that as well.
Yeah, and he's not being really caught at a great rate by Colin Warwick either. Warwick's last lap around was a 13 flat compared to the 12.5 that Lime Mitch has set. So in terms of staying in a zone where he's not under threat from any traffic behind, he's not getting the blue flags, he's just motoring along quite nicely a minute. In the pack that he was running in, he's certainly going to make a gain in this phase of the race.
I think Kurt Stenberg's in the pits. He is. He's taking service.
Number of drivers in the pits. So Stenberg in behind Paul Morris, and Mitch Hathaway is also in as well. I think Mitch Hathaway is just ahead. There he is. Now, here's this funny AMS thing again, and a little bit of a wait, a little bit of a hold for Paul Morris, but not on. And it wasn't too bad. We saw this. Oh, and a race.
Oh, no!
He's been pinged with a drive-through penalty. That will be too fast on pit entry. We saw this at Pukekohe for Mitch Hathaway. He had the strategy called absolutely perfectly and was in the box seat to win the race, having come in to take service when the safety car came out, and then got stung with a drive-through penalty. And he's done the same
look at
thing
this,
again.
a bit of traffic in pit lane. Colin Warwick coming in.
Yep.
Paul Morris coming out. Stenberg coming out. Luke Rosella inherits the lead. And Foley in second. He's about 11 seconds behind.
So that's, for Kurt Stenberg, that is 23 laps plus a formation on a tank of fuel. We'll go ahead and see where all these other drivers are going to sit. So it looks like we might see an appearance in the pit lane from Foley and Devonish in the next lap or two. Not sure about this man just yet.
Let's see how far he goes, because his pace isn't terrible.
He might get an extra lap or two out of this, given his pace was in the low 12s. He's going again, so he's going to get at least 24 laps, so maybe in one more. Foley in, and I'm expecting to see this car in the lane in a few seconds' time, and there it is, and so too Steve Burko.
Burko's done a very solid job so far.
Yep.
He's up 5 spots from
his teammate goes through, though, so Wayne Spencer, we did know, has already come in and taken service. And we expect to see probably Mitch Hathaway tour the lane in the next probably minute or two. Actually, where is he? Here he is, and he's gone round again. So he's got 3 laps to serve that penalty. Now Stenberg's come out in 6th place. It now goes through ahead of all the traffic that's in the lane, so that's now up to 3rd. Just Wedding and Roselli yet to stop. And at least this will give us a little bit of a shakedown in the order in terms of who is currently where. Still no pit sequence for Luke Rosella, although here he comes now. He's in now. So normally we get an indication that they are coming in for a stop by virtue the cog appears a little bit early before they get in. That means they've gone in and told the pit crew that they're coming in. This one's taken place right at the very last second. So this might be a little bit of an interesting dynamic for Luke Rosella here, a bit of a learning experience, I think, mainly because this will be the first pit stop that he's actually done in AMS Oz competition. Usually it's reserved only for the longer distance events, and of course he didn't make the very first event at Adelaide.
Oh, Lewis Wedding gets it all locked up into the pit lane. He
Oh.
needs to be careful that he didn't go over the pit lane speed limit.
We might go
The
back
rears were well and truly locked
we
there.
might go back and have a bit of a sticky beak at that one, I think, just to see how he went getting into the pit lane. So let's see how did he get it. Let's have a listen. It's a late decision. Oh, he might be in some trouble there. He might very well be in some trouble. That car was still sliding when it got to the pit lane starting line.
Luke Rosella's out of the pits, and away he goes. He's taken service. He's 20 seconds behind Stenberg, but that will probably jump out to about 22 or 23 seconds. Turmo's in the pits. Hopefully he has a good run tonight. They are sole remaining Queenslander with Brendan Ross out of the race. And Lewis Wedding, now we wait. Did he get a penalty or did he not?
He's trundling down the lane right now, so he's gone back up to 7th place. Fingers will be crossed inside that number 89 cockpit. And, oh, he's gotten away with it. Very lucky boy. That was borderline. And look where he's come out. He's come back out right in front of Liam Spencer. So this little battle that they were having is going to resume.
He's gone for the block as well.
Oh,
He's
there's
gone
contact.
defensive.
There's contact between the pair of them. Oh, that was very, very close to being a disaster for both drivers.
We've got to have another look at that.
Oh, we're definitely going to have another look at that one. We're going to take a look at it from the onboard point of view of Liam Spencer. We're going to go on the roof cam. There's Wedding.
Oh, happy days. I'm going to get past Lewis here. My pit strategy has worked fine, he thinks. Next minute. Here we go.
Oh,
he didn't move under brakes.
No.
I thought there was perhaps a bit of moving under brakes and he mounted the right rear tyre, but he actually mounted the front right tyre. So that was very interesting. And Liam Spencer, he was all locked up as well. So that would have been a very hair-raising moment for the young fella.
Listening to the braking on the car as well, Lewis Wedding's brake lights came on a lot earlier than what Liam Spencer hit the anchors was. So
cold brakes.
Exactly, those cold tyres and cold brakes.
I think Spencer, he just needs to be a little bit more careful. He needs to just consider that maybe the car's coming out, they've got cold tyres, cold brakes, things aren't up to temperature as they would have been, and maybe he just needs to learn from his dad a little bit more.
I think you're probably spot on there. Sort of getting around about 1/3 distance into this race now. And the running order's pretty much settled down. So that gap that Rosella had to Stenberg before the pit stop started hasn't blown out to a lot more than what we thought it was. It was about just sort of under 22 seconds when the pit stop started. It's now 22, nearly 23.
Yeah, 23 seconds. So
it's not terrible.
It's not too bad. I was spot on with that. I said 22, 23, 24 seconds. Happy days.
Although Stenberg's carried on his merry way, setting his lap times in the 11.3s.
Luke Rosella's still in the mid-12s
In the mid-12s. With Devonish now moving up to 5th place. He's moved ahead of Steve Burko after all of that as well. So this is probably as good a recovery drive as you can probably see from Will Devonish at the minute. Been a lot more measured in his attack on the field over the course of the last 25 laps since he made that mistake down at the final corner.
So Lime Mitch is back up into 7th, but his last lap round was a 1:13, so his pace is dropping off slightly. Burko's pace is about half a second quicker than Lime Mitch. So Burko, he's not going to come under attack anytime soon from Lime Mitch. And Burko, he's doing a really good job for Builders Traffic Management, owned by Formula V driver in the Formula V Association of Victoria, Mick Fisher. G'day, Mick, if you're watching.
I think
Hopefully we can be racing in the State Series soon.
Yeah, a bit disappointed that we actually didn't get a gig at the end of this month. The updated COVID restrictions unfortunately forced the cancellation of the Sandown event. So the next one for us is not until we get to Phillip Island, which is a very, very good track for the likes of Formula V. It really puts on a show in terms of showing how the slipstream effect works, and the amount of passing that goes on there is a sight to behold. Guys running so close together. But no, looking forward to when we can get back to a real racetrack here in Victoria.
I think we're all itching to get back to a real racetrack. But yeah, I think that will be in September, won't it?
Yeah, it's usually the end of September. It's normally grand final weekend is when the last round of the Vic State Series is on, or has been for the last 2 years.
Usually on the Saturday we all gather around the TV after the racing's done to watch the grand final.
to watch what's left, yeah.
But hopefully we can return to the real racetrack soon, because although we are quite lucky having racing as our hobby, that games are somewhat realistic. We would much prefer to be out and about in all the sorts of places in Victoria we go: Sandown, Winton, Phillip Island. Yeah, well, Winton in real life, the Supercars was recently cancelled as well, which was a little bit disappointing. But again, all the people are out there that are doing the wrong thing with regards to the COVID stuff has forced that cancellation, and we'll find ourselves with Sydney Motorsport Park grabbing a second event consecutive. Yeah, it's the Virgin Australia Super Sydney Motorsport Park Championship.
Pretty much.
But things could be worse. We're very lucky that we have any racing at all, Steve.
Yeah, that's true. Let's put it to put it bluntly. That's I guess the only way you can really put it at the moment.
But the racing was fantastic at SMP, wasn't it?
And good to see that we got a good variety of winners as well. Nick Percat up there as well, and I think McLaughlin took a win and Jamie Whincup took a win. It's good to see the spoils were shared around a little bit, and otherwise seeing, one or two particular drivers
Socialist
just running away, dominating.
Socialist racing, 25 points for you, 25 points for you, 25 points for you. Usually it only works with penalties that way, but it was actually quite good. I really enjoyed Todd Hazelwood's effort as well, until a broken Andy Rollbar ruined his efforts. And unfortunately, when one of your Andy Rollbars breaks, no matter how much full soft you go on the other anti-roll bar, it just is at absolute peak to drive. So that ruined his effort. Otherwise, he would have been up there. He had some good pace for sure. He made a very good move on Shane Van Gisbergen. But we're talking about gaming supercars tonight in Automobilista, not so much the real-life supercars. We're just falling into a bit of a lull here. Luke Roselli still solidly in the 12s. But he's no match for Stenberg's pace at the moment. That gap has blown out to about 28 seconds.
Yeah, he just hasn't got the pace to go with him at the minute. This man on the screen here has lapped everybody up to and including 11th place.
He's got his sights on 10th place, Wayne Spencer. So Wayne Spencer, he's pretty solidly in the 10 at the moment. And he's done a pretty good job by getting out of all that kerfuffle early.
I'm interested to keep an eye on Will Devenish's progress at the minute. Now, he's moved up to P5, as we said a few moments ago. The lap times that he's doing are slightly better than Brenton Foley at the moment. The last lap around, it was a huge gain. It was 9/10 of a second.
So Will's pretty consistently in the 11s, but Foley is in the low to mid 12s.
Yeah,
so He'll be catching him a fair way soon.
And looking at the lap times, if we go back and have a look at just how that's progressing. So Foley's about to finish a lap here. This last time around, there was a half a second difference in favour of Devenish on Sector 1 and another 4/10 in Sector 2. Foley with a 12.5. Devenish behind him at 11.8. Again, another 7/10 of a second. So Will's going to be on the rear bumper of Foley's VF in about 2 or 3 laps. It's coming down very, very quickly. Now, I'm not sure if this is Foley's just driving from a fuel mileage point of view, or I pray to God, I've got my fingers crossed here, that it's not a return of some of the problems that he's been having. He has had some dramas in ARW with his game randomly freezing or stuttering at points, and it ending up in the braking zones and then pitching him into walls and things like that. Last night in ARW at Silverstone, he went and made a small change on the PC and it actually fixed the problem. It didn't recur again. He lost the his 5th straight TCR or TCC championship at Sandown a couple of weeks ago on a Tuesday night, because that happened in precisely the wrong spot at turn 6, got pitched off the circuit into the wall when it happened, and it was enough points for enough of a thing with Dwayne Davies winning the race to give D2 his first TCR championship.
We should tell, congratulations to D2, Dwayne Davies, on his TCR championship. And also, I was going to remark that Wayne Spencer, he's just been lapped by Stenberg, but he was pretty solid in the ATCC race last night as well. He finished, I believe, 5th or 6th. So he was the best of the rest of them, I guess. There was probably the top 4 or 5 cars were aliens. And but he put in a pretty good showing in the Commodore. He drives the HSV TWR Commodore, and in a period livery as well. Looks pretty good. A nice yellow car as well, just like his supercar Volvo.
Yeah, and I've seen, I believe, his Ferrari in the GT3 series has been the same colour as well, and I'm led to believe his Porsche Cup car is in a similar looking livery as well.
It is,
so
yes.
Obviously a fan of the bright yellow, you can't miss the car, obviously, so it'd be very, very easy to spot on track. Now, Devonish is getting ever closer here, but I'm also thinking a little bit ahead about what Foley's pace is like to Colin Warwick, because on the last lap it was in favour of Warwick, was half a second quicker. This particular occasion, it's the other way around, a 10th in favour of Foley. So as much as Devonish is catching Foley here, hand over fist, and Foley, when he makes mistakes like that, is not going to be too thrilled either. Foley had been sort of ebbing and flowing back and forth with Colin Warwick in terms of pace. That gap has just blown out a bit there because of that mistake at turn 1. And it won't be too much longer before we start to see the current man in 2nd place in the point standings knocking on the door of the man in 3rd place and looking for a way past.
And he'll be looking for a way past quickly, because I reckon his pace is good enough to catch Colin Warwick in the next few laps as well, because he is running about the same pace as Foley right now.
Now lap traffic's going to become a factor here too. We've got the 2 HDS cars a little bit further up the street from Colin Warwick. Now those are Mitch Hathaway in 12th, and then Paul Morris behind him in 13th, which is the Paul Morris car there. As just ahead of them is Luke Rosella, having gotten past one of them.
Also rapidly approaching the halfway point of the race. 35 of 71 laps completed, or we are on the 35th lap.
We're on the halfway point right now.
Completed. So what more can this race hold for us? We've fallen into a bit of a calm stage here in the middle of the race. Everyone's sort of running their own race at the moment. Where do you think we go from here, Steve?
We've got to wait to see, once all the pit stops have shaken out entirely, with everybody sort of running at their different sort of levels. So the guys that have come in early on in the piece, we're probably expecting to come in pretty soon. The guys that came in around your lap 23 to 26 mark, we're probably not going to see until we get towards towards the back end of lap 50 roughly. So they're sort of splitting it almost down the middle, or as close as they can to in thirds, whereas some of the other drivers are going for an earlier, shorter first stint, and then trying to see how far they can stretch it. I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of those drivers end up having to do a splash and dash at the end.
Yeah, it just depends where it all pans out with the safety car. We're probably not going to get a safety car tonight.
We've only seen one so far in the entire series, and that was at Pukekohe in the second race. We've been pretty fortunate with the safety cars. It really takes a large incident to cause a problem. I was interested that we didn't get one when Will Devonish went around at the very beginning of the race. Then again, the car was off the racing line, so it wasn't in a bad position. Had he reversed back onto the circuit and collected another car, we probably would have seen one.
The safety car would be the least of your worries at that point, but Will Devonish, he's smart enough to know not to do that, and fortunately he's right now making a comeback. He's on the comeback trail gradually, attacking the back of Brenton Foley, sole remaining PBF HRT Commodore.
I think Devonish is only going to have eyes on 3rd place at the minute, unless, as you said, unless there's a safety car incident. 3rd's probably the best he's going to be able to manage tonight.
Sometimes you end up praying for safety cars and they just don't come.
No, but it would spice
it's like
up.
praying for rain in the Atacama Desert in the dry season.
It would be a very, very interesting dynamic if the safety car was to come out right on this halfway instance, because then it starts to favour the drivers that have gone in on the early stop. They can sort of stretch a little bit more. It then throws the drivers that came in about lap 23 to 26 into a different type of dilemma as to how they get home. That's actually a pretty easy pass for Will Devonish in the end. It didn't make...
Got it done early. Got it done way before turn one.
Yeah, I think Foley may have given that one to him, actually. I don't think Foley would have contested that too heavily, knowing that Will's got a bit more pace, and maybe it might be best just to stick with him as Will tries to hone on the back of Colin Warwick. Last time around, though, Warwick had a 13.0, Devonish an 11.8, Foley a 12.1. So the two cars in 4th and 5th both made ground on Colin Warwick's car in the last lap or two. And now I think this is probably just the extra push that they needed to get there. If Will Devonish has got the pace, he can clearly set out and get onto the back of Devonish get the back of Colin Warwick quickly, then maybe Foley can be through in a heartbeat. Now, I did hear just a little bang of the wall somewhere. I'm wondering if maybe one of the HDS cars just nipped the wall on the way through there at the hairpin. Just a little bang. Car looks pretty straight, though, for Mitch Hathaway. Kurt Stenberg at the moment setting some really nice sector times.
Wayne Spencer's just come out of the pit.
Yeah, he's come out right in the front of this battle as well now. So he's
lap traffic.
Yeah, lap traffic becomes a problem. So in the braking zones, well, he's got a damaged rear wing as well. I've just noticed Wayne Spencer too. Look at that wing; it's sitting at a really weird angle. We'll cycle back. It looks as you come here on the side. You can't see it from this angle, but one side is definitely higher than the other. We'll go through the field and we'll just pick him up, and then we'll go back and have a look at this rear wing. Have a look at that. What on earth has he done there? It looks like he must have backed it into a wall somewhere along the line.
At least he's still got the rear wing,
right?
That was a brave move from Devonish. He was just like, I'm coming. No, I'm not going to let you through.
It's blue flag, so he's going to have to sidestep the argument here and let him go through.
And this is a good place to do it. He's just whacked the wall as well. The Townsville Racing stripe.
Oh, Foley's going to try and go with him here.
Oh, just open up the steering and let him go.
Yeah, got to let him go. Yeah, Foley's not happy.
Oh,
there's a car around. There's a car around. That was
Hathaway.
Was it? I think it might have been Mitch Hathaway. No, it wasn't. It was Paul Morris.
Yeah, Paul Morris.
Second time
it's
around. What on earth did he do there? Let's have a look at that. We just all of a sudden we're on board with Wayne Spencer, and you can see the battle unfolding in the back there. What did he do? Did he play snakes all the way up to turn 13? Got a bit of curb. He got the curb on the inside at 12, and that's unsettled the car. Little tap of the wall. Warwick gets through. Devonish gets through. They all get through. Foley put a move on Wayne's. Oh, and there was further contact up the order as well.
Just hit the wall as well. So what's happened there?
I'm wondering if that might have been what we saw happening ahead. If I just rewind it back a little bit, I did hear some contact on the backside of, as we were watching BDS go around, there was a bit of contact. Now, who got who?
Oh, Spencer in the wall again.
Yeah, Spencer got the...
And he's DNF.
Yeah, so Spencer got the inside wall. So there we go. And Wayne Spencer now out of this race as a result while we were watching him.
And Liam Spencer with a drive-through penalty.
That's going to be a track infringement, I'd suggest. Let's see if we can pick up what happened to Wayne Spencer. So the car was already damaged.
Yeah, Spencer's still running around. Liam Spencer, that is.
Yeah, we're watching Wayne Spencer here. What did he do? Yeah, he's got damage on that car. Oh, snap sideways and, yeah, off in the grass. And, big moment. He had a dent in the door as well. So, yeah,
that's a disastrous lap for Wayne.
Yeah, there was some trouble on that car to begin with. Cam Rutledge had a moment in the final corner. Now, this is mistakes starting to creep in as the longevity of the race starts to set in as well. So, those that are going to be able to keep it on the road and keep their focus are going to be the winners here.
Lewis Wedding springs to mind because he is up in 7th, 4 spots up from where he started.
Let's have a look at what happened to Cam Rutledge. Braking okay, just did not put enough brake pressure into that brake pedal.
Got to really monster the brake pedal at the start of your braking application. Just monster at 100% and then bleed off it. And just, we're talking 5, maybe 10%, depending on your way your brake bias is set up. Then you can trail brake it into that corner. It works really well.
So Cam Rutledge, 2 laps down in 13th. Rhodey is now the last man in this race, 3 laps down.
Will Devonish up to 3rd.
Yep, so he's now managed to get past Colin Warwick and Foley's managed to get past as well. So while we've been looking at the replays of everybody making some
Colin Warwick's
mistakes,
last lap round 1:16.0. So
where's that damage done though? It's in the first sector
bit of a
mostly.
mistake there.
Yeah, he had a poor first sector as well on the last lap. Around his last lap was 13, but we go back and take a look what happened. Oh, torrid final sector.
Lost 3 seconds in the final sector. Look
Yeah,
at that.
37.2 compared to his usual times in the mid 34s. So this is as good as Devonish can probably hope for at the minute. Although that being said, Luke Rosella is only nearly 5 seconds up the road. So there's still a long way to go in this race. 30 laps remaining at the conclusion of this one. You can hear the Volvo in the background. We'll know now, hey, second place is not, insurmountable here.
Liam Spencer's just come in to serve his drive-through penalty, and he's just about to be let loose again.
Keep an eye on him. Let's see if he does it well. And he does it well, so that's good. Now he's on the main straight now, just ahead of this battle. And Luke Rosella on the main straight, so he's not under any immediate threat from a blue flag, is Liam Spencer.
Geez, look at Stenberg. He's nearly 39 seconds up the road.
He's been like an absolute metronome, hasn't he? Just 11s continuously in the 1 minute 11 bracket. Just have a bit of a look there at his lap times, Hans, and let's see if he has what his rough deviation is at the minute. He's had a 12.5 in there. He's had a 12.2 as well. I'd imagine a lot of that's got to do with lap traffic. But every other time outside of the pit stop sequences and that, he's had, every time he has some lap traffic, he drops into the 12s. Every other lap has been 1 minute 11. So just metronomic consistency at the moment.
That shows that he's able to make the move at the right place and not lose too much time. But Stenberg, a welcome return to form for him compared to last round out at Calder Park. Calder Park definitely was not what he wanted from the race.
Yeah, that's the round I think he'll probably like to forget. Just a mistake on the second to last lap of race 1 and then a fuel miscalculation just really compounded his night. Just not something that we are used to seeing from him, but he's doing an exceptional job. This is reminiscent of what happened at Adelaide. Remember that we spoke to him after the Adelaide race at round 1, and a little bit later on when he was starting to pile all those wins up after Adelaide. Remember, he went on a run of 7 wins in a row from Adelaide all the way to the end of Pukekohe before we finally saw another race winner. And we did say to him, do you prefer the shorter format or the longer format? And what was his answer? Longer format.
Yeah, he's just able to really make it work for him. It works to all his strengths, Stenberg. He's just dropped into the 12s now. Probably those tyres have seen better days. Will Devonish still in the 11s for this moment in time. Luke Rosella, meanwhile, he's actually dropped into the 13s.
This gap is coming down from Rosella to Devonish pretty quickly as well. It's pretty much halved in the last 3 or 4 laps. It's gone from being nearly 5 seconds to under 2 now. So this pit stop sequence is going to be very, very important for both gentlemen when they come in. And probably Foley as well, I think, and probably smell maybe third place might be on the cards here if he can stay with Will Devonish for long enough.
Yeah, Foley's looking to fly the flag for PBF, considering that their team's championship has gone a little bit pear-shaped at the moment.
Just doing a little bit of math here just to see how things are panning out in the championship.
He's
picture.
got the abacus out. He's going all which way.
Yeah, the
See smoke coming off it.
Oh, not that bad, surely not.
Yeah, he's working real hard.
I'm good at mental. I'm good at
Steve's
mental
working
math.
real hard. He's just trying to get all the numbers. He says, "Oh, if he pits now and if he finishes here, yeah, okay, we'll see what happens now. Let's do some projections. Let's do some calculations."
Well, if we do the math right now, and you end up with 300 points for a race win, you end up with 276 points for second place. If Will Devonish is able to get past Luke Rosella and maintain second place, the deficit is only going to go from 93 points to 117. So it ends up being a very, very good recovery drive for Will Devonish if he can get onto that second step of the podium. Even a third place result, if something doesn't go his way, it ends up being 135. So he doesn't lose a hell of a lot of points, but we're only at round 7 out of 15 rounds. So still plenty of time to go.
Oh,
right.
Here we go. He's on the inside. He's got a good run from the final corner. Luke Rosella's tyres have probably seen better days. He's probably going to try and make it a little bit easy for him here, and he moves out, leaves the car width there. And good move from Devonish. Good driving, Luke Rosella.
Easy pass in the end. Knew the gig was up. No point fighting it. Pit stop sequences are coming up soon. Just try and stay with the number 15, see what you can do when the sequences start to shake out. We're pretty much in that second pit stop window. You can pretty much pit any time from now and just about get home. Although a lot of drivers, I think, will probably want to get to about lap 48 to 50 and take the newer tyre as late as they can, so they've got something to fight with toward the back end of the race if they do start to come under any siege. Now that Will Devonish is in second place, when all these pit stops start to shake out, I'll be really interested to see what sort of pace he has compared to Kurt Stenberg. The current best lap of the race at the moment is an 11.115 from Stenberg. Devonish's best lap is an 11.388. So do you think he's going to go for fastest lap honours? We know that the lap record is still within reach for the right person.
Oh, probably wouldn't go for that just yet, but he might set the lap record incidentally to trying to catch Stenberg, or Stenberg himself may set the lap record. But, I mean, he's 40 seconds up the road. It's going to be a very difficult job for Devonish, but who knows, anything can happen.
Foley's got the job done on Luke Rosella nearly here at turn 1, running side by side. So Foley's lap times have sort of been doing all right for the last little bit, although he did get a track cut on his previous lap, and now he secures third place in the running order, getting the job completed at turn 3. This hasn't been the season that Foley really wanted to run through either. We take a look at his results. His worst result, believe it or not, is 5th place. He's got a single race win, which was the second race at Barbagallo. 2 second places coming at race 2 Pukekohe and race 2 Calder Park. 4 third places, 3 fourths and a 5th. So not been outside the top 5 all season long. Still within earshot of the current points that he was 135 points in arrears of Stenberg coming into tonight. That'll increase. But even he's already conceded a couple of rounds ago.
Oh, we've got a safety car.
We have two. There it is.
Will Devonish's prayers have been answered. Luke Rosella's in the pits. This is a fantastic move from Rosella.
This is a big moment in this motor race.
So Rosella's going to be the winner here because he was just
And in comes Midline Mitch as well. Look at them. They're all in. They're filing in.
So Luke Rosella was the first car that was just before the pit entry.
Yep. So Burko's. So Rosella has taken.
Who was that?
Rosella, we're trying to work out here what has happened with who's had the incident. I'm wondering if Rhodey's had a drama somewhere. It looks like he's had a pretty poor sector somewhere. Let's see if we can pick up if he might very well be the cause of this safety car. He's had some terribly slow sectors. Just looking to see what may have happened.
So he's gone off at turn 1 and he's just looped it around and he's gone off at turn 3.
You've gone a bit further back than my replay allows it for. So it is indeed the PBF Red Bluff Brewers, which is a new sponsor for him this year, that has caused
Colin Warwick out of the race. And
Warwick is out of the race now. That's an interesting dilemma. So that's just in the last minute or so, I believe. No, he was actually in the pits before any of that happened. So look at this. Oh, look at this in the pit lane.
It's a drag race.
It's a drag race out. And that was between Wedding and one of the HDS cars. I believe that was
Warwick has just
Paul Morris.
ended up parked on the road, and I believe he's had a puncture.
Okay. Oh, look at this. There's trouble in the pit lane. Look at this. Devonish and Spencer and Turmo, they're all in. And they've somehow managed to make this work. The AMS doing what it does. So Devonish is going to get out first from Liam Spencer, and then Turmo's going to get out behind them. So there's going to be a trio of the CRE cars are going to be in the right position here. Now, Foley has stayed out, I think, or actually, is he in the pit lane? Let's have a look and see.
Oh, Foley's in the pits.
Yeah, and Turmo couldn't get out.
Oh,
yep, Devonish's on the move. Turmo couldn't get out. And Foley's the loser out of this. He's going to be caught in the traffic. He's caught in the traffic. These guys are all a lap down.
He's caught in lap traffic, yeah.
Yeah, these guys are all a lap down. There's the safety car in the back of shot. It's actually picked up Luke Rosella in 4th place. Now the next question is, Foley's going to drive through. No, that's terrible for Brenton Foley. What's he done?
What's happened there? It's just all of a sudden a drive-through's just happened.
Did he have a problem getting out of pit lane? Did he speed on pit lane? Surely not. or has he cut the circuit, or something's gone on for Foley? Let's just have a bit of a look here. Oh, looks pretty. We're just cycling back to see what was going on there, but oh, don't tell me he's gotten too close to the wall on the corner there. Maybe there's a bit of an unusual track cut or something there. That is a disaster if that's the case for Brenton Foley, and he's not going to be able to serve that either. That's going to surrender third place overall on the road. Yeah, something's not right there. That's a little bit of a...
So Rosella's just been waved past.
Which, as he should, because he's not the leader of the race. Kurt Stenberg is the leader of this race. Now, has he come in for a stop?
I believe Kurt Stenberg has come in for a stop. I may be wrong.
Let's go and have a look at the timing screens, and let's just see what he has done. His last lap was a 1:19, but that doesn't factor in. Yes, he has. So he came in the lap after the safety car. He came in on lap 47. So that's confirmed that he has stopped. So he'll be fueled to the finish here. Yeah, he stopped in behind Lewis Wedding and co. So the safety car picks up the race leader. Then we're back to Will Devonish. And then third place man is Brenton Foley, but with a penalty over his head, then back to Luke Rosella. So Rosella will go up to a net third, Burko will go up to a net fourth, and Wedding fifth. And then everybody back on from Termo, Liam Spencer, Paul Morris, Lime Mitch, and Mitch Hathaway will all come up inside the top 10 after Foley. Actually, no, they won't. They'll stay where they are because Foley was a lap ahead. So he will end up with net sixth place after it all shakes out, but he'll be some distance off the back of Lewis Wedding.
So I was thinking Luke Rosella, he was the first car to pit as the safety car came out. That should have probably vaulted him up the order a little bit more than he was, but then he got caught behind the safety car.
Yeah, he's been...
So that probably put the end to that. But this brings him on to the back of Foley, who has a drive-through penalty to make, and Devonish. So Devonish the big winner from this because now he can show some of that pace.
Yeah, this is where it becomes really interesting. We were waiting to see...
Rosella as well.
Now, I believe what's going on here, Devonish has gone through to be behind Kurt Stenberg, even though Rutledge was the lap traffic. So I'm wondering if the game is just instructing them now as to who they need to follow. So this will be the killer here to work out what's happening.
Drama upon drama at Townsville.
And as all the field starts to get together, there's Foley. There's Luke Rosella on our live races map. He's just coming up to turn 3 now, so he won't be too far from getting onto the back of this train. These guys will want to hurry up because we suspect the safety car will probably be going in the next lap or two.
So Rosella's just getting onto the back of the train now. There's a lot of lap traffic between them. There's Rutledge, Spencer and Termo, and Foley's going through, and I believe Rosella will go through in the near future.
Yep, so they're letting
the game is letting them know that they can pass.
Now this is interesting. Termo's caught in the middle of it here too, so there's been a little bit of reshuffling of the pack. Now let's keep an eye on it from Stenberg's point of view on the roof cam. Let's see if the lights go out on the HSV Camaro safety car. It's just slowing up a little bit here, and yes, it's in. So
they caught the train in the nick of time.
They certainly did. Now, this effectively turns into a 21-lap sprint race. Stenberg's got control of the field. And he goes. Or he goes early. No, he's got to wait until the control line before he can hit it. But Devonish is right with him. Don't fall asleep. Oh, he was asleep at the wheel.
Asleep at the wheel. Will, what are you doing? You've just let Kurt get away, but fantastic start from Kurt Stenberg. Look, he's just rocketed away.
Yeah, that was a terrible restart from Devonish. He was not awake to the task at all. Foley's having to take the defensive approach here, but he's also having to take the aggressive approach to make sure he can get ahead of the lap traffic before Luke Rosella tries to get in as well. Termo is looking like he's trying to get out of the way here. They get split. It's like parting of the Red Seas. The two of them just went straight down the middle.
Parting of the red CREs, not so much red, but to make the
parting
joke.
of the CREs, yes. That's a nice analogy. Thank you for correcting me on that one. It's just like they just parted it. It's like there's a C in it.
Cars aren't red, but there's a C.
Now Burko's having to negotiate that traffic as well. So for the moment, Foley's got third place. If I was Foley, I'd be in this lap. I'd be in immediately to serve that penalty and
give
get it over
yourself
and
the
done
maximum chance to recover from it.
Yeah.
If Foley's not in after this lap, then He needs his
Oh, look
head
at the HDS cars in the background. They're getting it on like Donkey Kong as well behind Lewis Wedding.
Oh, Burko's got his lights on.
Yep.
He's probably encountering some lap traffic.
Oh, and Foley keeps going.
No, Foley, what are you doing,
And
son?
Rosella's going to go the over and under here, and he's going to try and make this work. Did he get good drive off the final corner? The answer to that is yes. He's got some purchase alongside the PBF Race Engineering Commodore. Now you want to ease off the throttle slightly. He gets a bit close to the wall. Now, can he pull it up? Is he going to go for the over and under treatment?
Over and under.
No,
Switchback,
Foley,
come on.
well done.
There's the car in the middle of the road there.
Well done. Great block manoeuvre from Brenton Foley. Put his car in precisely the right spot that he needed to do, but this is hurting him. Every lap he does this is hurting him.
All he's doing is just slowing himself and Rosella down.
Yeah, he's pushing them back into Burko at the moment, although Burko's got his own worries, having to negotiate the lap traffic of Liam Spencer and Lime Mitch at the moment as well. But I don't understand why Foley just didn't come in and get this done. There is no live steward in here at the moment, so the penalty is not able to be cleared. So he's got to get in and get this done. He's got to play the hand as it's been dealt.
Gap between Stenberg and Devonish.
Oh, Rosella's going for the move, so here we go. Down the inside here now. This is a problem for Foley. Foley, if he needs to come into serve, he's got to release the throttle.
You've got to be in. You've got to be in this lap.
Now he goes.
And he's in.
Right. That answered that equation. I was worried he was on the wrong side there for a minute, and if he had it pressed on, he was going to be in trouble. Got it stopped well and truly before the line, so good boy. Now he's got to trundle down to pit lane at this awful 40 km/h speed limit. He will maintain 6th place, as we said, but he's going to be a country mile off the back of Lewis Wedding, who's just sitting in here watching this battle. Look at this. Lime Mitch now down the inside of Liam Spencer at turn 1. Worked him over beautifully, but hasn't
Even the lap cars are having a great race.
Yeah, not... Look, and they're getting the blue flags from Wedding behind, but they don't care.
They're in their own battle.
They're getting this battle on.
If one of them yields, the other one won't.
And finally, it goes in favour of Lime Mitch for this moment. Although Wedding's probably getting a little bit worried at the moment, sitting behind them, worried that something's going to come to grief here. And then the two HDS cars tucked in behind Wedding's FGX Falcon.
Look at this, it's a train of LSS cars.
Yeah,
train of HDS cars, LSS cars.
Of LSF's engineered Falcons. Although teammates are getting it on behind. There goes the number 31 of Hathaway down the inside of his teammate.
There's a bit of rub there as well, but
Yeah.
good thing, two blue
Oh,
cars.
he's not around! So which car was that went around? It was Hathaway on this occasion.
No, you
Oh.
are joking.
That was a disaster again. So here we go. Here's the move.
Oh boy, oh boy.
Oh, I'm not sure if this was contact or if this was just getting it on the accelerator a little bit too early. Oh, came from a long way back as
See,
well.
he sent it from way back.
Yeah. Now, what happened here? Did you get the curb? No.
Oh.
Just a little bit too ambitious on the loud pedal.
Now I hope there's not a bit of rub between Hathaway and Billy, because we have seen that in the past when they've come together.
Oh, this is a sore spot. We better not bring this up again. Oh, they're going to kill us.
Oh, well, I mean, I wouldn't want to be a fly on the wall right now, but I hope they are resolving it.
Yeah, I hope there's a
bit of mediation going on.
An amicable discussion.
So Stenberg and Devonish, the gap is ebbing and flowing ever so slightly. It's going from about 1 second to about 0.6 of a second. It just closes in, then it jumps back out again.
Although their pace is pretty similar. So last lap around 11.7 to an 11.6 in favour of Will Devonish. This time it's an 11.5 to Devonish and 11.1 to Stenberg. So
Stenberg's responded.
Yeah, he has. He's awakened to the task. And let's have a look at where most of that damage was done. It was in the middle sector. So first sector and third sector are marginal in terms of comparison on the previous lap, but in the middle sector that time around it was a 2.5 gain.
Yeah, Stenberg's a lot stronger in the middle sector, I find. He's not the strongest in the first sector, but he's a lot stronger in the second sector. And that's pretty much what's...
Look at this, purple sector for Will Devonish on this.
Yes, you're right. Purple sector for Devonish. He's
by a
on
mile
fire at
too.
the moment.
Look at
21-1.
2.5 tenths was the purple sector on this particular occasion. What's the second sector say? Second sector is in favour of Stenberg by a tenth, a 16.6 to a 16.7. What does that translate to at the control line? The gap is a lot closer this time, so this one will be a net gain to Will Devonish if he can hold it together. A little bit wide at the final corner, but yes, he's done that pretty well actually. To the line they drive. Stenberg is going to do an 11.5 instead. Devonish an 11.3, and that's a PB for Will Devonish as well. So lowers his own personal best on that particular occasion.
500ths of a second.
Yeah, by about 500ths of a second. It was 11.3.
Oh, look at
big
this.
dive! He's done it
Oh.
again! He's off the road!
No. Will, what
Oh,
are
and
you doing,
he's vulnerable
son?
to Rosella now as well. Oh my goodness gracious me. That is not the first time that we have seen this. So here we
All
go.
he needed to do was stay behind him and he just needed to calm down a little bit. Just rein it back a little bit and just let it come back to you. But look at this.
Here it is again. All very late on the brakes and just couldn't pull it. Just could not pull it up. Oh, we've been robbed. We've been robbed again.
We've been robbed of a fantastic finish.
Yeah. That's what was... He just needed to bide his time. He just needed to sit there and bide his time.
Let's get their-itis again.
Let's
get their-itis. He's just had the alarm bells ring. He's like, I need to get past it. I need to get past. But sometimes it's just better to just bide your time. Just relax a little bit. Try and focus on just staying there. Well, buying a ticket to the finish in the end.
Yeah.
And then you can make the move.
Buying a ticket to the big dance.
We've got somewhat like 15 laps till the end of the race. So, I mean, there's a lot that could have happened between now and then, and I doubt that he could have just been able to just roll off the front as if it's the Tour de France in a breakaway. But I guess it's another day of another night of what may have been for Will Devonish.
And he's been given a track violation for it as well, so that just compounded the matter even further. But you're right, Hans.
He's pushing too hard. He's overdriving.
He needed to sit there and just maintain that distance for, and when it gets to the right moment to make the move, you do it. That wasn't the right moment to make the move, but also hats off to Kurt Stenberg in that situation as well.
Oh, he saw it coming.
He saw it coming and realised it was happening and just opened the steering, just stayed wide, let the CRE Commodore just go sailing past and then just tailed on behind him and said,
well, that could have been
set off in the distance.
That could have been the biggest accident in the world we've ever seen.
Yeah,
but luckily it wasn't, thanks to Kurt Stenberg. He's just like, oh, this car's getting a lot bigger in the mirror.
Yeah.
And just opens up the steering, lets the car go past, and they both live to fight on another day.
Well, the gap's now at 5.7 seconds, and Will's just sort of, I guess, a little bit frazzled, a little bit rattled now after that exchange. So,
but if he had the drive, if he was driving tonight like he was in the GD3 race on Tuesday night, where he managed to that was a very measured drive. He was hitting his fuel number each lap. It was just a perfect race from him, and he was just able to just very comfortably roll away from Steve Bolger, who has been one of the pace setters in GD3, and that was a fantastic race for Will. He got the win, didn't quite get the championship in the end, but a fantastic win for Will. But unfortunately, it's just coming undone for him tonight. I mean, coming off 2 race wins at Calder, and potentially what could have been another race win tonight for Will, and the gap is about 6.5 seconds now, so it's just going downhill for Will from here, unfortunately.
Yeah, well,
his prayers did get answered with the safety car, but it wasn't to be in the end.
No, he
You've got
hasn't
to take those opportunities as they come.
Yeah,
Steve.
he hasn't been able to seize that opportunity. I mean, had he been able to stay with Stenberg as well and managed to get the win in the end, he would have turned that 93-point gap into a 69-point gap. So it could have been a huge swing for him had he been able to buy that ticket.
Paul Morris is actually retired from the race.
Yeah, so we've lost.
So that's Billy Dougal-Salonga.
Yep, so he's just exited on lap 55, and he was already a lap down. So that's just in the last minute or two he has retired from this race. And has he gone into the wall somewhere?
So he's just nosed into the barrier.
That's down at the hairpin.
Yeah,
We're
down
just
at the
on the other
hairpin.
monitor here. I haven't got that on the replay just here, but yeah, just outbraked himself into the hairpin, and that was ahead of Turmo and Cam Rutledge as well.
So his return race in AMS Oz, disaster for Billy. But it was a pretty solid showing up until that point. He should take heart that he's done pretty well. Yeah. Another man who should take heart is Steve Burko. He's been coming on strong lately.
Yeah, pretty solid showing from this guy as well. His last race was his best race weekend for the season, a pair of 6th places at Calder. He did have a 6th place in the second race at Pukekohe, and then prior to that, he had to go all the way back to the first round at Adelaide. Second round at Albert Park, where he finished 7th. Every other time, he's been 10th or lower in the standings. So just started to find a little bit of form. That Super 2 form translating over finally into main game supercars. Having raced at this circuit already in Super 2, knows the track, has the setup to go with it. Just got to apply it to a different car.
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely is one of the form setters, the pace setters in the Super 2 series. And in terms of the Super 2 battle at the moment, he's actually a lap up on Line Mitch, so he's doing pretty well there.
Yeah, the intra-team battle from Super 2 carrying over to Supercars.
And we've got the Kiwi crew in the live chat. We've got NZ Snipes. He's barracking for Burko, and you got to admit he's doing a fantastic job right now, Burko.
Yes.
He did recently get new wheels and pedals, Fanatec gear, I believe. So he's using that to great effect, and it's just showing that the spacer as well.
Wedding just got the wall back there as well, I just noticed, through that really nasty bump.
I was just going to say the spacer between the wheel and the pedals for Burko, he's doing quite well at the moment as well.
Have a look at this. We'll just keep an eye on this from Wedding. I'm almost positive that he got a fistful of that wall on the run out of turn 3. Let's go on board to the roof cam. This is a really tricky part of the circuit because you do have to use this little offshoot through the dip. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yep, there it is. Hit the wall. Just a little glancing blow on the wall.
Pancake the left side of the car. You got to earn your stripes here. What can I say? You just got to earn your stripes.
The one thing that I'm disappointed in a lot of circuits, like the street circuits, is that we don't see any of the mirrors flying off nowadays. These guys are pretty measured. It's not like the Gold Coast where you go through those tyre bundles and the left-hand mirror just gets completely wiped off the car, and you come back after you have any laps you do and you're missing both mirrors, and the crew just go, for God's sake, then we're going to have to replace 2 mirrors.
Yeah.
And only for you to go and knock them off again.
Yeah. Yeah.
They must go to the Gold Coast round in supercars with like a whole toolbox full of spare mirrors.
Yeah, probably. It sounds about right. I mean, considering that the ZB Commodore is out of production, might be a bit difficult, but I don't know, they'll just cannibalise them from the dealership. Who knows? But that is real life.
There'll be a whole bucket of spare parts somewhere.
Probably a world bin of spare parts from their sale of Opel to the...
Hathaway's gone as well now. We just realised that both HDS cars are now out of this race.
No.
That's out of position number 10. So the ranks are thinning here. And that may have happened in... I'm just going back to see if we've got it in a replay. And
he's gone straight on at the chicane.
The answer to that is no. So your replay goes back a little bit further than what my one does, unfortunately.
He's just gone straight on.
That's the same chicane where he ended up having the problem with JP Courier last year as well.
So he's got form at that chicane.
Oh, it's not good form, though.
No, sadly not. So
right,
very high rate of attrition now. We're down to 11 runners.
So that's going to put Cam... we have a few more runners than that. We've got, 11 runners all up. So Cam Rutledge has got a couple more laps to unlap himself to get ahead of Hathaway. And the same goes for Rhodey as well, who's actually just made another stop.
Yeah, I believe Rhodey's just in for a splash and dash, potentially. Yeah. Probably.
So this is all really settled down. I mean, this is the closest battle now on track. There's 2 battles that we're really focusing in on. So the Liam Spencer and Lime Mitch battle, again, Super 2 combatants. They're the 2 that are pretty close on track. The other 2 are Devonish and Rosella. And Rosella's just managing to stay with Will as long as he can. The fire has pretty much gone out of that CRE number 15 Commodore now. The gap has started to blow out again. It's now out to 7.5 seconds. Will's lap times are consistently, several tenths of a second off of what Stenberg is doing. Still in the 11s. The last lap was an 11.9, but Stenberg was still an 11.7. So even at 2 tenths of a second, that gap is not going to be caught in the next 10 laps.
Now, Steve, I'll riddle you this. If we get another DNF in the next 8 or so laps that we have to run this race, Rhodey will get a top 10. Rhodey will get a top 10.
Yeah, if it's in the next 8 laps.
If it's in the next 8 laps, the car DNFs.
Correct. And that'll be purely because he's currently 4 laps down on the field, and it needs to happen in the next 8. You're right, in the next 8 laps for him to have enough time to get onto past that car enough to do it. Now that being said, where is he on the track at the minute? He's currently in 12th place, and he's down on the run to turn 3, where our race leader is coming up to the start-finish line. So the important thing too is he cannot afford to get lapped again by the race leader. So he can't afford to make a mistake, because if he does, then he's going to go a lap down, and then he won't have any chance of getting into the top 10 if there is another DNF. But you're right, that being said, the rate of attrition tonight is pretty high, but this is what this type of racing does. The longer distance racing always brings this up. The next race that we have for Supercars is actually the Hidden Valley round in about 3 weeks' time, if memory serves me correctly. And that returns to the 2-race sprint format. So a number of drivers will be looking forward to that and eyeing off the opportunity to go back to the shorter racing format and still having to do the pit stop sequence, but nowhere near having to do the strategy calculations that go along with it.
Yeah, nowhere near the amount of brain power required to distract yourself from driving and worry about fuel calculations. But podium right now, it's looking like another win to Stenberg. Another welcome return to form for Stenberg. Will Devonish snatching second place from the jaws of another victory, it seems.
Yeah.
And Luke Rosella, a very solid performance into the top 3 onto the podium once again.
Yeah, everything.
Very deserving of his Pro A status.
Yeah, everything to... Will Devonish had everything to gain and unfortunately couldn't quite take the grasp of it when it happened. Into the high 11s now. Stenberg dipping down into... Look at Stenberg's last lap. It was an 11.135, only 0.02 of a second outside of what his best lap is.
So he's got pace to burn at the moment.
Yeah,
and
he sure does.
Luke Rosella, he's in the high 11s as well. So he's keeping up with Devonish.
An important thing too is that we haven't broken the race lap record. We've broken the lap records at pretty much every other circuit on the calendar that we've been to for Supercars so far this year. This is the only one that hasn't been taken away so far, although Stenberg will be looking
He's
to
working
do that.
hard.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
working hard. He's drifting it.
I just saw it on the other monitor there that he was getting it all
Let's
out
try and get that on
sideways.
replay. That might be some good fun.
Yeah, let's have a look. So this was as it was coming through the back part of the circuit.
Just look how hard he's pushing. He's just squeezing 11 tenths. Look how hard he's just
Slides
using
it
all
right
the
out
track. Gets a
sideways.
bit of dirt.
Yeah, here he
One
is.
wheel in contact with the racing surface everywhere.
This is what we were looking at.
Look, here we go. He slides it up to the fence.
Yep.
No worries there.
Look at that, they're getting the full-on drift on as he goes round
Look
the
at that.
second
Bit
chicane.
of opposite lot. Dab of Oppo. And she'll be right, mate. Off she goes. He was probably on the lock stops there.
Probably was, for a little bit.
Well, in real life, he would have definitely been on the lock stops. These cars, in real life, they have very little lock.
Well, he hasn't got long to go. This is lap 66. From here, it's just 5 more laps.
Gee, what a stellar race this has been from Stenberg.
Well, this is, as we said earlier...
He's still pushing.
He's
still pushing hard.
This is precisely what we saw at Adelaide. Ooh, floated it right over the curb. They're probably very lucky not to get a track cut from that one. That was mighty close. It's a return to the domination that we saw at the Adelaide race all the way back in late February, early March. It just left them for dead. Just cleared off from the start of the field and just was never headed. The safety car threw a spanner in the works for him. And Will's started to raise his game, but just wasn't able to do it.
Matter of too little too late right now.
Too little too late. There he is in back of shot. I think Luke Rosella is far away from maybe making a last-ditch effort to maybe steal
Last lap
second
round
place
for
away
Devonish
here.
was a 1:12.0. Then
Rosella was an 11.8.
Yeah, so he's just catching him ever so slightly. He needs to get a wriggle on though. We've only got about 4 laps left to go in this race.
Yeah, this is lap 67, so this is the 5th last lap to go. So provisionally, as we look through the point standings here, we look at Kurt Stenberg with his 7th race win of the season, moving him all the way up to just shy of 2,000 points on the season, and it'll increase the gap over Will Devonish to 117 points. And we look back to another podium finish for Luke Rosella potentially here. That would move him on to 696. It'd be enough to get him into the top 12 for the moment. So he'll start to become a feature on our points graphic. But that being said, he's not made a huge amount of inroads this lap. Honours in Sector 1 going 2/10 to Devonish and then 1/10 the other way to Rosella, although that slide out of the final corner is probably going to cost Will a little bit of time. 12 flat to a 12 flat. Look at the gaps, a 12.042 and a 12.074. So
there's pretty much nothing in it.
Pretty much no gain for either of them there. Very, very slight incremental gain to Will Devonish on that last lap. Ever so slight. Although Wedding and Burko are starting to get close as well. So Wedding has actually gotten past Steve Burko in the last few seconds as well. So did Burko make a mistake? What was the last lap from Steve Burko? It was a 13-1 to Wedding's 12-8.
Yeah, just a tardy lap for Burko.
Tardy, where was it lost? It was in the first sector, so most of it was in the first sector. It's a good drive from Lewis Wedding. Started P11 all the way up to P4. Yes, there's a bit of attrition in there as well. But points for Lou Simsport. I mean, the only car in tonight with Pete Savage and not able to take the start. And Zach Ross, an early non-finisher. Oh, a little bit of a rub of the wall there from Burko as well. And Brenton Foley has been very, very lonely ever since he had that drive-through penalty. 6th place for him. Liam Spencer has managed to finally get the best of Lime Mitch and is holding this margin very, very nicely at just on a second to 7th and 8th. And then Termo is the next man 1 lap down in 9th. And then it goes back to Rutledge and Rhodey, who are the only other cars on the in the race, but both multiple laps down.
So right now we're on the 3rd last lap, and Luke Rosella, he's 1 second behind, or he was 1 second behind Will Devenish. Now that's opened up to about 1.2 seconds. And it's not over yet. It's not over yet for the 2nd place on the podium.
No, not by a long way. All it takes is one mistake from Will, and we've seen this before, you know, throwing it off the road at really odd points, and he'll be in some trouble here. 2 laps to run though. What sort of a challenge can Rosella mount in these final 2 laps?
Liam Spencer, meanwhile, looks like he's broken the back of Lime Mitch finally.
Yeah, he's managed to clear away a bit more now. I think there's been a bit of a mistake on from Lime Mitch Summer on that lap. Yeah, really look at the sector time in Sector 2. It was a 7/10 of a second differential. He's probably had a curb, I won't say a curb stripe. He's probably run over a curb or had a moment bouncing over a curb or something. That's put him out of step. I think if Will can probably maintain this gap for the next lap, it probably will just be enough by the time they get to the flag over the All-Australian Races Volvo. Yeah, you can see this gap here. Ooh, Rosella a bit wide of that final corner. Off the chicane. Both taking very similar lines. This gap is not getting any smaller. It's not getting any larger either. Oh! That looked very, very nasty. Like Luke Rosella might have just got a little bit of the wall there on that really bad transition over the bump over Boundary Street. The white flag's in the air. Stenberg has a near 10-second margin, which if it wasn't for the safety car would have been almost a 3/4 of a lap win, just judging by our numbers, our rough numbers here.
Yeah, it would have been pretty unbelievable, and there would have been a lot more cars that would have gone a lap down, but 6 cars on the lead lap at the moment. Liam Spencer, the first car, a lap down. And Kurt Stenberg, what a race by this fella. He's just done a fantastic job. The Perth native didn't have such a good run at Barbagallo, but he did get 1 race win. And at Calder Park, not a good run there either. He uses all the track. He's still pushing hard.
Oh yeah, and he's got,
that's just the
got a little bit of lap traffic too as well. So this is Rhodey and Rutledge ahead. So Stenny doesn't need to do anything silly here. Neither do these two. Oh, not this again. I was about to say Cam Rutledge being passed again. We saw what happened at Calder Park with that one. But celebrating already, getting the tail out sideways. Race win number 8 out of 12 races this season.
He nearly spun it there.
And he will salute after 71 laps and 200 kilometres of the North Queensland 200. Another win for Kurt Stenberg in just a hair under 90 minutes.
90 minutes, nearly 90 minutes of precision driving.
A 2nd place Devenish hangs on, so another podium finish for Will Devenish. Another podium finish for this man. This man is starting to really make some waves, Luke Rosella. Wedding is going to come home for a much-deserved 4th place. Probably drive of the day, I think, from my point of view. Just staying out of trouble. Some really great defensive moves from 11th to 4th at the flag. Burko from 5th. That's his best result of the season, of 5th place. Brenton Foley, a very lonely 6th in the end, would have been en route for a podium finish if not for the drive-through. And Liam Spencer home in 7th place. Turmo gets home for 8th, so he'll be very happy just to have stayed out of trouble for this race. And Lime Mitch home in 9th place, having been bested by Liam Spencer early on. So he's lost another spot there, Hans, after
He's
all of that.
He's lost a spot to Turmo.
He lost a spot to Turmo after all
Very
of
dying
that.
stage of the race.
Yep.
He's lost a spot. Cam Rutledge in 10th and Rhodey in 11th. Great job, Rhodey. He's managed to avoid all the attrition, avoid all the drama, and nearly got a top 10 out of it. He's on the cusp of a top 10 in 11th, so great job, Rhodey. And I think we need to give him a pat on the back, don't we?
Yeah, we sure do. He's done really, really well there to keep it out of trouble.
And this is not an easy track by any means. Just look at the names that have gone out. We've had some pretty competitive drivers who are fairly up there in terms of the ladder, and unfortunately, one way or another, they've found calamity. Did not start this race for Pete Savage, unfortunately. The Windows 10 updating drama rears its ugly head once again.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to see if we can do something to help some of our friends over there in the Supercars Championship, just to see if they can get any of those little Windows 10 issues sorted, because they're an absolute pain in the backside at the minute. I know that Windows 10 hasn't been getting the best of raps. There's been a number of guys had some trouble with one of the Windows 10 updates that caused a lot of game stuttering issues. So I think some of us tech heads that are familiar with Windows and Windows operations, I'm looking at yours truly here, as that's been my profession for a long time, might have to start getting involved to try and help some of these guys get their stuff sorted, so we don't have that sort of problem, because we don't want to see guys out of the race or not being able to take the start just because that stuff happens.
Technical dramas like that.
No, I'm sure there'll be, where there is a will, there is a way. And, well, I was about to say, speaking of will, because he just popped into the box and now he's popped out of the box. So we'll wait to see our podium sitters make their way up here.
Oh, they've all come here. Well, we still got one more to come.
We've still got one more to come, but let's start with our 3rd place, man. Let's go.
So, Steve has let me loose once again on the podium place getters, and it's fantastic to welcome back to the podium Luke Rosella. Again, a very fantastic performance. A bit of a battle on your hands tonight. Nearly could have gotten up to 2nd, and interesting call when the safety car came out, mate. How'd you feel?
Well, yeah, thank you. A bit daunting coming into this race actually, because I'm used to sort of sprint races on Automobilista, not really used to the sort of feature or endurance rounds. So bit of inexperience as well, but yeah, good start, okay start. Sort of hold station behind Colin Warwick in the early parts of the race, sort of push him to use more of his tyres, and that sort of worked. Went up to 2nd, and then yeah, 2nd stint wasn't that great though, because a bit of inexperience with the pit menu. I put hard tyres on instead of softs, so that allowed.
Oh yeah, that's a bit of a drama.
That allowed Devonish and Foley to catch up, and then I wanted to try undercut them, go fuel a bit early than usual. And when I was in the pit lane, I saw a safety car. I was like, oh wow! So a bit of stroke of luck for me, and yeah. And then in the end, had a good sort of battle with Will Devonish in the end. So happy with 3rd place.
Yeah, well done on a fantastic 3rd place, and you're very well deserving of your Pro A ranking.
Yeah, definitely. Sort of, I think traction control sort of would have helped in this race, because a lot of the traction zones sort of really overheated the rears. So, but nah, thanks for that.
Congratulations, Luke. Another stellar 3rd place. Your 3rd round. Hard to believe that it's just his 3rd round in AMSL's competition. And onto our 2nd place getter, Will Devonish. Good to welcome you back here again, but unfortunately, another case of what might have been, Will.
Yeah, huh? Actually really enjoyed that race, but that 2nd lap snafu was not great. But in all honesty, if I didn't do that, I don't think the result would have been any different. Kurt just was able to churn out the laps more consistently than me. So kudos to him for tonight. But yeah, it was a great fun, that race, and really happy with the whole team getting all 4 cars home top 10. So couldn't really ask for anything more.
Yeah, great job. It seemed like your prayers had been answered when the safety car came out, but unfortunately a mistake dropped you off the back of Stenberg, and that was all she wrote.
Yeah, just locked it up and then had to nurse the flat-spotted tyres for the next 10 laps before they healed themselves. And yeah, Luke was a bit fiery towards the end, so just had to keep on it. So yeah, great race with Luke. Real fair racing.
Well, you're not over and out in the championship now, mate. We're just halfway into the season, and there's plenty of time for you to get back up there. Well done, Will.
Thank you.
And a welcome return to form for this guy, and welcome back to the broadcast booth, Kurt Stenberg, pole position and a fantastic race win tonight. Could have been 3/4 of a lap that you had the margin by if it weren't for safety car, but that just shows the level you were on compared to the others.
Yeah, mate. Wanted to put on a big show tonight, one of my favourite tracks, and wanted to bounce back from Calder Park and really make a very strong statement about what I want to do in this series.
Yeah, fantastic to see. And you were like a metronome. Steve remarked that you were like a metronome. You're just pumping out the 1 minute 11s. The lap time drop off was very little compared to the other cars. You're just driving the car a lot smoother, and it looked really good to watch.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with my setup that I ran here. I basically made a couple of changes to one I ran at ASC last year at Townsville, which I managed to win a race there as well. So car was pretty good, pretty happy with the car. One thing I also do that I notice other people don't do is I run higher gears out of some of the corners here, which probably isn't the fastest, but it gives you it helps you lots later on in the stint. Like I run third gear through the back little chicane, and it helps you in that traction zone later on in the stint. So that's probably why I was able to hang on to the tyres and pump out the lap times more consistently than others.
Yeah, another masterful performance from yourself, Kurt. And did you ever think that you were perhaps under risk of coming under attack from Will Devonish in the after the safety car?
I'll be honest, not really. I wasn't happy to see the safety car, but no, I wasn't really worried about a threat. Although I had a little problem with my rig as we went to go. My throttle wasn't coming back to zero properly. It was only coming back to about 70%. So I was dragging throttle under brakes, making it difficult to brake. But as Will went up the inside of me, I managed to rectify that, funnily enough. So yeah, that actually, as soon as the pressure was off, it didn't really matter. So, but yeah.
Well, just shows that it wasn't 100% easy for you tonight, but Kurt Stenberg, fantastic job. Pole position, race win, and leading a large portion of the race as well. So fantastic effort, mate. Well done.
No worries, mate. Thanks to you guys for what you do, and yeah, onwards to the next one.
So, Steve, we just saw Kurt Stenberg put on another masterclass tonight from Will Devonish in second and Luke Rosell another stellar third position. But you can't help but wonder that these two guys, Devonish and Stenberg, they're definitely going to be the main protagonists in this series from now forward.
Yeah, completely agree with that one, Hans. We've seen Kurt Stenberg dominate or show his prowess in the longer distance format. Certainly seems to be the one that he favours. Dominant win at Adelaide at the beginning of the year. What would have been a dominant win tonight if not for the safety car. As we've said, nearly probably 3/4 of a lap he probably would have won by at the end of the day had it not been for that safety car. He has been able to steal 6 of the 10 sprint race wins this season as well, although they've been a lot closer than what he probably would have liked. So while he has been able to win some of them by a few seconds here or there, definitely seems to be the longer game format that is the one that he prefers the most. And if we have a bit of a look on our calendar for the Supercars, the next event is the top end twin sprint, so a return to that sprint race format, and that is an event last year that Brenton Foley absolutely dominated. So that'll be something that he's earmarking on the calendar that he wants to try and fight for this championship. He's going to have to pull out a good result there. And then we get back into the longer distance format for a little bit. We actually have 3 consecutive longer distance races there. So the Hamilton 200, the Sydney Super Night 200, and then the Phillip Island 250 are all long-distance races, much the same as what tonight was. So 200Ks for Hamilton, 200Ks for Sydney. Phillip Island goes to the same 250 that we did in Adelaide. That's an event a lot of drivers are looking forward to. And then we've got only 2 more sprint rounds left, the Gold Coast and the Sandown rounds, the only 2 remaining on the calendar outside of the next race at Hidden Valley, which is on July 23rd. So be sure to tune in for that race on July 23rd. And as we said a bit earlier in the broadcast, the upcoming events, the last race of this week, which has been a busy week for AMS Oz, is tomorrow night over on the Loose 89 channel for the Phillip Island round of Super 2. And then a little bit of a break until we get back into new series that have just started. The GT3 Sprint Series on July 14, round 3 of ATCC on the 15th of July, and then the next round of Super 2 after the Phillip Island round will be the Bathurst round on July 17. Closing thoughts?
Oh, I would have to say one of the standout performers tonight would have to be Steve Berko. Great to see him up there in the top 5, and I guess it's been coming for a while because he's just been doing so well in Super 2, but I believe Steve Berko, he was very happy with his effort actually. He did come into the chat and mention it, but great to see him up there, and it just shows that he's going pretty well. So the Volvo, the Builders Traffic Management Volvo, is coming on strong at this part of the season, so great to see.
And he'll be applying his trade tomorrow night in Super 2 along with the pair of us, which will get
if you want to see commentators out of their depth trying to drive cars around Phillip Island, then come and tune in.
Yep, I agree with
We're
that.
in the same team, aren't we?
We are in the same team.
We're in Tickford Racing. How good's that?
Us commentators got to stick together. That's the important thing.
That's what it's all about. I'm just here to protect you. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
When you get fired
You're
off.
here to lead out for me. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for joining us for the North Queensland 200. Please drive safely. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.